Welcome, everyone, to Talk with Sally. I hope you guys are enjoying a sunshiny, warm day today. Well, I guess it's some sunshiny in some places. It actually is storming here. So let's knock on wood that nothing happens to my connection here. Welcome, Timber Traveler. Welcome, Demon's Wrath, to chat. Currently, I am streaming on 3 platforms, on Rumble, on X, and on YouTube. Knowing the topic of our conversation tonight, we're probably going to be only on Rumble and X after introductions get started. I have a very special guest, Aaron M. Stevenson. He is a DHS whistleblower who lost his job. And I'm getting goosebumps just introducing him. That's crazy, for blowing the lid off of the government's involving in trafficking of children. And I should have brought a box of tissues up here because I don't cry on stream, but I might during this one. And he's going to get into all of that. Before we get too far into this, guys, I'm going to first, before I forget, I want to make sure, oh, I didn't pull this up yet. Hold on. I want you guys to make sure that we give a shout out to this Give, Send, Go for my friend who needs a kidney. And I'm actually going to pull up the site exactly. I know that we do have what's called a Biden economy and everything sucks and everyone is strapped for money. So if you can't give, share it with someone who might be able to. He's not asking for a lot. So and I know him personally. So this is not a scammer. And that's why I can vouch for it. So this is a kitty campaign for Jason. He's 38-year-old guy from Michigan, living just outside of Detroit. In November of 2019, my kidneys decided to call it quits. Then COVID happened in March 2020, and my roommate took her own life in April of 2020. That's a lot going on. It's been a weird and expensive couple of years. I'm raising funds to cover medical expenses and provide for myself after surgery while I wait for a transplant. I appreciate any help that you can offer. By donating to my cause, you're helping me pay medical bills and support my life after transplant. I had money saved up prior to all of this, but my kidney failure has proven to be expensive. My bank account has been basically depleted, and I don't think I shared that tab. I'm reading this, you guys aren't even seeing it, but that's him and his cute little doggo. By donating to my cause, you're helping me pay medical bills and support my life after transplant. I had money saved up prior to all this, but kidney failure has proven to be expensive. My bank account has been basically depleted, and I can't get caught up despite working full time. This will put me in a tough spot once the surgery is complete. Thank you for your consideration. And put in there just a note. He's only asking for $25,000. Okay. Most people who are having a medical procedure are. Did I not ever add that to the screen? Oh my goodness. You guys, I think this might be my first rodeo. There's a picture of his Give, Send, Go. I already read it, but there's him. Okay. If you can donate, you can share. It's very much appreciated. He's a good guy and he's a good friend. And most people are selfish and want to ask for lots of money. He's not. He's just asking for basic needs. But I wanted to make sure I addressed that because this conversation is going to be deep. So if anyone is triggered by anything that's like this, you can DM me and you can reach out and I'll try to find resources for you to find or get help. I don't know all the ins and outs of everything. But with that said, let us bring up Aaron M. Stevenson, DHS whistleblower. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for being here. I've heard your story, and I'm sure I only got bits and pieces a couple of times on Spaces, and I just am so grateful that you're going to share with us because I don't think people are aware what's going on. So why don't you introduce yourself and maybe your background?
Okay. And I have the Rumble chat open, by the way, so I'll be looking over there every now and then because I'm looking through the chat.
You're fine.
But also, tell me when to pump the brakes. Tell me when to slow down because I've lived it, so I might be kind of going through things quickly, and you're like, whoa, like go back to that, dude. So just feel free to cut me off whenever, okay?
I'll ask clarifying questions because I'm genuinely interested in this. Like, I want us to just have a conversation, and chat, if you guys have questions for him, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna copy them and paste them into we have a private chat. I'm gonna paste the ones that are relevant into the private chat, guys. So, I want this to be informative for you, and I want him to get his story out. So,
All right, ready?
go ahead. Yep.
Okay. So my background, my history. I joined the Marine Corps out of high school, July 2001, and 2 months later, I moved boot camp. There was 9/11, and basically, it's like I don't know. I guess that's when life got one of two ways, right? So I was in the Marine Corps for 2 enlistments. I went to Iraq 3 times. I elevated to the rank of sergeant before I got out. I was a intelligence analyst, so my job was what intel is for the military is basically reducing confusion for the commander. So it's not like telling him what to do. It's not like you're advising on all things. It's just the commander's got operations. The commander knows what he wants to do, and then we say like, "Hey, this is this what would screw you up on the way." So yeah, I was in Iraq 3 times. I like the Marine Corps. It's just that I kind of got done with it after a certain while. It didn't feel like what it first was when I first joined. But I still wanted the idea of serving my country. I still like that idea. I still liked that idea. And I tried becoming a Fed. Well, I had no background. I had 2 enlistments. I had no college. That was it. So I contracted for DOD, and I did 3 more deployments, this time to Afghanistan. And that was in 2010, 2011, 2012. And while there, I learned a new skill set of biometrics. So understanding how to collect and leverage, a person's modality. So their fingerprints, their iris scans, just how to use that and either increase lethality or to help with targeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, I got a job offer at DHS. And I didn't know much about it. I was trying to get more of a DIA type things. I contracted out of the National Ground Intelligence Center and Defense Intelligence Agency. So I was kind of gearing more towards that route, but I wasn't getting any offers. So DHS offered me a position to come there as a GS-12 in Northern Virginia and to basically do vetting. And I didn't know much about it. So I did the interview. I was in Afghanistan, and it's during nighttime operations. So every 20 seconds, I'm telling my boss, hold on, there's a flight taking off. Yeah. So to answer your question, when I've ever had conflict, it's a job interview, but it's so I start at DHS, and it's a very, very small office in September of 2012. So the very tail end of Obama's first term is when I became an official Blue Badge Fed. And the office was called US Visit. It's an acronym. I just forgot what it stands for. And we're only there for a very, very short time because then the sequester happens in early 2013. And in this little sequester, if we all recall it, this was the the not shutdown. Ted Cruz did the whole filibuster, all the way up until 5 seconds left, and then it passed a spending bill. So there was that government shutdown for the first time in a long time. Remember?
Uh-huh.
In that time frame, we still went to work. It's we weren't off. We just weren't getting paid. So DHS repositioned where we were. So I got moved automatically from this little tiny office called US Visit into Customs Border Protection, or CBP. Our job stayed the same, literally same computer, same desk, everything was the same. It's just we changed out flagpoles, right? And where I was working at was this place called the National Targeting Center for Passengers, or the NTC. And there's 2 types of targeting. You can do cargo or people, so passengers. And that it's a big word. It's a lot of whatever. All we did in our office was all the Afghans and Iraqis that were coming in the country. We were tasked with hey, check these guys out, which made sense. Everybody that we applied for this position, we were all Afghan vets, Iraq vets, or experienced in either or. So again, having 6 deployments between the 2 countries, it's yeah, I got the job.
Wow.
So that's when I first started realizing, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I just turning 30, or I just turned 30, and it's wow, I'm in Northern Virginia, I'm finally a Fed, I'm gonna be finding terrorists, they're not gonna come in the country, here we go. And right away it's man, this guy's a bad guy, and we write a report about it, we give it to the CBP watch commanders, and they're okay, cool, so he's already got an immigration benefit, right? Like, yeah, he's already got status, but like, he's tight with Al Qaeda, he's tight with the Taliban, he's tight with so and so. Like, okay, but he's already got status, right? It's like, yeah, but he's a bad guy. Like, okay, well, we got to let him in the country. And like, I
So
never
what does
understood
that
that.
mean? What does it mean when they have status? Like, help me
Yeah.
understand that.
So status is basically means that you are an alien, and an alien is basically anybody who's not a U.S. citizen. So a green
Yeah.
card holder is an alien. A legal alien is an alien. A tourist visa is an alien, right? Status just means that you have lawful paperwork and you're in the legal process to do the thing you're allowed to do. So, for example, if you fill out a visa to come to the United States, go to Disneyland, right? And you do that, and then you leave, like in that whole, you have status the entire time. Or let's say you're a student visa, you come in and you're like, I want to study at Kentucky University, but then you take a job. Well, now you're out of status because you're here to go to school, but then you took a job. You can't do that. So they were just concerned about the immigration status. Like, yeah. I get he's a bad guy, but like he didn't like get a job, right? It's like, well, no, but he's just
So they can be here. It's okay to be here as long as they haven't broke the rules. But let's allow them to maybe break the rules, maybe somewhere down the road.
And that's the thing, right? So
Okay.
so this is the government, and this is not me again, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, being very green, very, very green when it comes to the government stuff like this.
Yeah.
They're very risk adverse. That's a nature of government as a whole. They're risk adverse on doing things because if they go to court and lose, that's precedent, and now everybody else can take advantage of that basically. So these guys, they're not bad. These aren't like shady CBP officers. They're just used to a really bad system. So they're just already looking to the end of being like, okay, cool, he's a bad guy, but how bad is he? Like, I mean, seriously, but we've had guys on the terrorist watch list coming in and they're like, well, he's already a green card holder, right? Like, yeah, he's a green card holder, but like, he's a terrorist, So that goes on for about 14 months. And I get to the point where this was in very early of 2014. I still remember this case. This guy was coming in and I go through this is like a quick one. They were like, we were on forced overtime. I was one of the only guys left in the shop that night. And they were like, hey, this dude, like he popped up on our targeting, like something's weird with him, go check the guy out. So I do his fingerprints. I look at his name. I'm doing all the history on it. I go through it all and like, yeah, it looks like this guy's a bad guy. So I go like, really deep into all his phone numbers and email addresses. I'm doing vetting, right? And then it comes across, it's like he's named in reporting, like human intelligence reporting from Iraq in Western Al Anbar, where I was. And so I write the report about the guy. It's very detailed. I'm like, yeah, this guy's actually a financer for Al Qaeda. Like, we know who he is. Look at all these things. Bop, 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 bop. Now, all the information about him, though, as far as how he collected it in detail, is classified because it's all secret. Because the U.S. government collected on it, so we're not just going to put it on Google. We keep it inside.
I'm going to pause you right there real quick. So for everyone that's been following me, you guys all know about Operation Gladio. So think of what he's saying right now, because everything we look through is also through Gladio glasses. He's describing this guy's working in finance. Everything's classified. Think about the connection that we've talked to with Al Qaeda, the CIA, and the international syndicate. Continue. I just want to let them be aware of that.
No, it's really cool. So write the report up and then give it to the watch commander. The watch commander is a good dude. He's a good guy. We were kind of buddies. And I was like, it's like, 3 a.m. I've been on this thing for like a few hours now. He's still in the air. And it's like, the intent is like, okay, they're going to land, but it's like, we're flying right back. Don't let them deboard. Don't let them go through customs, because then, once you walk through that gate, it's like, well, now you're in the hands of ICE. It's just a whole different world. Again, it's bureaucratic stuff. So
yeah.
The watch commander looks at it. He's going through it, a couple pages long. He goes, all right, is this it? And I was like, yes, that is it. Like, he is a financer for Al Qaeda. Like, he should actually be now placed on the watch list for blah, 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 blah. And he's like, he's got status? And I was just like, motherfucker. And that was me get like, okay, like, there's a problem with this whole thing, which is basically, it's like, okay, once the aliens get status, it's kind of like free reign. They can just kind of come and go as they please, as long as they don't follow status. So how do we then, how does that get mitigated? Tell you what, I'm going to go to the place that gives them status. Like, I'm just going to jump the chain of events, and maybe I can go maybe I can go in there and like help out and be a good steward, right? So I applied for USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. I get the job in April 2014. Now that's my final like Fed agency. Okay. I move around to a few different like divisions, like Intel, National Security, but I'm inside of USCIS, down the ladder, FDNS, Fraud Detection, National Security. We are there to, guess what? Detect fraud and look for national security, right? So I get the job there. I go to the like little immigration school for it was about a month and a half in Dallas. I'm there. I learned the ins and outs of immigration, which I'm not gonna lie to you, it's complex. It's very layered. It's very like we do this, but we don't do that. But we do this, but we don't do that. And our job was kind of like being created. We didn't really have a position yet of doing things. So one of the first things I worked on was setting up this automatic rule for fingerprints. So whenever an Iraqi would come in and they had an encounter previously with U.S. forces in Iraq, this would like kind of initiate a rule. And I was like, okay, so basically all the Iraqis that are coming in that, the U.S. government has basically talked to, we should be looking at a little bit closer now, right? They're like, yeah, okay, cool. So it's like, I've worked these systems. I understand the information. You can go through pretty quickly. It's like, it's not that hard at all. In this time frame, I'm learning also, by the way, though, that even though it's policy that every immigration officer is required to look at the fingerprint information history, they're not doing it. They're not checking fingerprints. So we would be writing a report about, thank you, man. Thank you, bulldozer. So we'd write a report like on like the Iraqis and their, biometric information. And we would post it inside of like the online portal so immigration officers could read it. And they were responding like, what is this? And it's like, it's the guy's like information about his fingerprint history. Like, it's in that website you're required to look at, which they just don't do really. So it was mandated, but never enforced. So over time, for the next about year and a half, I'm seeing major pitfalls when it comes to like, yeah, we're not really that good. We can actually kind of suck as far as like, vetting and stuff. Again, 2014, 2015-ish timeframe, this is the rise of ISIS about to be there. So in 2015, I start working on this program called the Watchlisting Program. And there is where you put aliens on or off the terrorist watch list. And by the way, when I say, I'm going to talk about two watch lists a lot tonight. Whenever I say the watch list, that's terrorist. When we get into the cartels thing, I'll just always call that cartel watch list. So two different ones, the watch list, terrorist. So obviously we were only caring about putting people on the watch list. So I, get certified. I become a certified analyst for Watchlisting, and we're going through like some of our cases and histories and everything else. And we're able to find some bad guys that are already on the watch list and like update their information. Like, for example, hey, there's Abdul. Hey, whoa, Abdul's on the watch list. Turns out he also filed for like all this immigration stuff. So we would take that immigration stuff and put it on his watch list like portfolio. So that way the rest of the government can see his watch list stuff, right? Or his immigration stuff. And we started doing that. And then like our government bosses were like, whoa, that's cool. So we're adding guys to the watch list. We're like, yeah, we're enhancing, but we're not really adding. But they were like, yeah, but we could like brief to our bosses that we're adding guys on the watch list. And we're like, slow down. It's like, we're just adding our information to a known bad guy. It's like, it's cool, but it's like, but then they were like, well, how do we add guys to the watch list? And it's like, okay, well, if we go like the big one became this. All these Syrian and Iraqi terrorists that tried to come in through the refugee program, a lot of them will get denied for being terrorists. Okay. So we would kick out like, no, you're not coming in. You're denied refugee. The guy's on the watch list, but he's got like four kids and a wife. So they would have us go through all these like immigration like records to nominate for watchlisting like 4 babies and a guy's wife of people that will never come here to the country. And we're just like, okay, guys, no offense. This is really not the best use of intelligence. Like we're wasting a lot of man hours, but it's like, yeah, but now this boss that we had, he can report every single week. Hey, we added 30 guys to the watch list. Hey, we added 44 guys to watch this week. Hey, so we're making widgets. We're making a lot of widgets.
Oh, so you guys are doing so good. You're doing your job. You're making the government look good by adding people to this list.
Yeah, but it's like, but they can never come here because they've been denied for refugees. So now anytime that they were ever to apply, it's like we would see it right away. But now the problem also is like we're creating busy work down the line because once these kids all turn 18, they have to come off the watch list. Well, that's just gonna be more analysts doing dumb work. So I stopped doing it. I'm like, I'm not doing this, guys. Like this is dumb. I went back to trying to figure out how to manage, like Iraqi information it basically sucked. So I'm kind of starting to hate life now. And then I got a new boss comes in. He's a really good dude. I knew him from my old job. And he was just like, Aaron, like, you look like depressed, bro. He's like, we don't want to lose you, but like you can tell that I'm becoming a Fed. I just don't give a shit anymore. So he's like, how about this, dude? You start working on like this other program, and whenever I can use your help to like look at certain cases, like we're going to. A few months later, he's notified about this case where there's a woman, an Iraqi woman, who's a terrorist. She's the wife of a terrorist, and she's a green card holder. Now she's going to adjust she's going to naturalize, become a U.S. citizen. Her husband still lives in Iraq. He's watched it. He can't come here, but she's his wife. They still talk. So it's like, yeah, we call that a category 17. Like, you are the wife of a terrorist. You're not letting him go. Like, you're not living here to be an Americanized person now. It's like, you're still married to a terrorist. You guys still talk. Like, no, we're not approving your naturalization. But they wanted to look at it. They were like, well, how can we deny that though? That's what they're thinking. So my boss gets me on the case. He's like, just look into it, see what you can do. I was like, okay, fine. So I go to the beginning of her paperwork, and her whole process to coming to America started as a refugee. So I go through her refugee interview. I'm reading about it. It's very boilerplate. We see this a lot. There was a threat letter that was on my doorstep, And so I was like, okay. So I get the threat letter. I'm reading it, and not reading it like, I can't read Arabic, but I'm like kind of going through looking at it. And I see a logo like on the letterhead, because they do that out there. And I'm like, I know that logo. I recognize them. And I'm like, that's the 1920 Revolutionary Brigade, So I look up on Wikipedia, and I'm like, yep, that's the logo, 1920 Rev. I knew it because that was Anbar area. So it's like, hello, like that was my territory, So then I go through a record, and it's like, I'm reading I get the letter like transliterated, and it doesn't mention them at all. It's very vague, but it's extremely flowery. It's very jihadic, poetic. It's all like, cut the heads off like, it sounds like a jihadist warrior did it. 1920 Rev wasn't that. 1920 Revolutionary Brigade, they were ex-Baathists. They were like secular nationalists. They were not like Al-Qaeda, like that kind of two different crowds. They don't talk the same. They don't have the same messaging campaigns. On top of that, where she lived in a part of Baghdad that 1920 Rev never went to, like at all. And then the letter that she said came from another terrorist group, which again, never went to that area. So it's like, this is total bullshit. Top of that, the paper itself, I'll use just a big one here. The paper itself, like it's like this, right? So the letterhead is nice straight across, and it's kind of like faded lettering, but it's like, it's perpendicular with the paper. It fits with the margins, whatever else, right? The body of the paragraph was printed. It's like much darker, and it's at a complete angle. Okay. So it's like, all right, obviously somebody photoshopped a letter on top of there, made a copy, and then there's my threat letter. I'm automatic, refugee now. So I go through it all, I prove it all, give the findings. It's all unclassified. I go give the briefing to the board, right? And I was like, yeah, this is, blah, 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 blah. Well, they then also brought in the refugee officer that looked at her case. Now she doesn't have jurisdiction anymore. This refugee officer has no jurisdiction over the case. Like, you process the benefit, that's it. Like, you don't get any more say anymore. Like, but she was basically allowed to like almost vouch for this alien, even though there's like no ability to do so. And in the end of the day, what happened was, they said, okay, we got to make a decision here. What we're going to do, and they talked with this lady's attorney, was, okay, we're going to deny the naturalization, but we promise, and this is like a gentleman's agreement, we promise to like never turn down her green card. And they accepted it. So now this chick can still stay in America the rest of her entire life. And I was just like, okay, I'm done. Like this, I've made no effect at CBP. I've made no effect here. Like, this place just sucks. Okay, I am done. I'm dropping my pack. I'm gonna do my quarterly training for the rest of my career and do nothing at all. I don't care anymore. And then my boss saw that, and he was like, yeah, dude, just like you're really struggling right now. Let's get you out of like the Iraq world, because clearly there's some problems there. And he basically nominated me to be one of the analysts to represent USCIS on this new thing called the Transnational Organized Crime Working Group. Transnational organized crime. This is where the whole thing starts now, okay, for the child trafficking stuff. All right, so this was a program started by Obama, not by Obama, but Obama's administration, in which they were to look for transnational, meaning It's, happening in two different countries. One of those countries is America, right? So we don't care about the Nigerian, Sudanese gangs. It's like they don't deal with us. We don't care about that. However, gangs that come into America, we do care about. So transnational, organized, meaning like it's serious. It's not just like 30 dudes that are just kind of bad guys. And then crime, a specific like, yeah, we're looking for like serious shit, guns, drugs, trafficking, bad stuff. So again, like the illicit potato trade, we don't care about. That's just we're looking for the serious bad guys now. And so this was also a whole of government approach, right? So the Terrorist Screening Center, which is part of the Department of Justice, they were like the housing agency. So whenever we met up, whenever we communicated, whenever we exchanged data, they were like the conduit and like the base. So they weren't in charge of it, but they were like the pulse. So we'd always go there to do the thing, and then we're always wherever else. A part of this also though are DOJ itself, the FBI, obviously DHS, Intelligence Analysis, and the Office of Policy. We also have CBP, ICE, USCIS. Okay, we have Labor. There's Treasury. There's State Department. So again, it's like anybody that can affect crime stuff will be there to affect crime stuff. So this wasn't a DoD thing. This was more like, again, like criminal stuff, not terrorist stuff, right? And what it basically was is we took, in brevity, we took the framework and the skeleton of like the terrorist watch list, okay, copy paste, boom, and fill it with criminals, not terrorists. So very similar process, very similar function. It's just these are, Al Qaeda. This is, mobsters. That's basically it, right? And so when this thing starts, USCIS, we see very little activity because it's like, yeah, most mobsters. The population we put on this watch list at first was very controlled. Remember, government's very risk adverse. So they put on like, some Eastern European gangsters. Well, Eastern European gangsters don't go to USCIS and ask for travel benefit. They don't go to USCIS and ask for, they're fucking gangsters. They're never going to come to ask for legal immigration. So like we would go to these meetings and like, yeah, we're listening. It's like, yeah, but we have like no say. So when they would say like, any objections, we're like, no. Does everybody concur? Yeah. Because again, we have no input really because no population yet. From like 2016 until like, honestly, the beginning, really basically early 2017, I think there was one encounter. This is the key thing. One encounter that dealt with USCIS and like some Russian mobster had like a visa or something weird. And that's the only time we ever saw anything, right? So these encounters are a big deal. An encounter is, again, it's a watch list. So we're watching a guy on the list. Whenever he does something, it would ping. And then the entirety of this like working group would get notified via email, unclassified, of whatever the thing was. So it's like, let's say a guy flies in the country, boop, we would see that. And then everybody gets to see like, a cartel member flew into JFK on flight number this is the guy's name, date of birth. This is the guy's alien number, his fingerprint number, blah, 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 technical stuff. But it's very, very clear. It's not hard to read. You can see the data in and out. So again, USCIS, we're not seeing a whole lot of the encounters because not our population. Then Donald Trump becomes president. And Donald Trump puts on the watch list MS-13, 18th Street Gang, Pisces Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel, like all these Southwest border gangs. Well, they don't need to find the country. They can walk across our borders. And it turns out they do quite a bit, right? So CBP, good stewards of doing this, by the way, they were like watching a lot of bad guys. And then we would all of a sudden start seeing like, ping, ping, ping. It was a MS-13 guy got pulled over. This guy did that. But it's like, we're seeing some of these times, like these guys have immigration benefits. And usually they are in what's called defensive asylum. I'm going to nerd out now. So chat, please just bear with me. Okay. There's two routes of asylum. Okay. Everyone always talks about asylum seekers, but there are two routes of asylum. One of them is, an asylum seeker. They are seeking asylum. This is like your traditional, I'm a Soviet ambassador and I love capitalism and I want to give you this and I want to become an American. I'll go to the embassy, or when I get here, I'll talk to a judge. I'm going to seek asylum. I'm a political asylee, blah, blah, blah. That's like nothing at all. This is a very, very small population. Most asylum people are what's called defensive asylum. And that's where it's like, yeah, you were breaking the law, asshole. Like you're getting kicked out of the country. And in this process of being removed from the country, they make a declaration saying like, but if I get kicked out of the country, I'm going to get harmed. I can be tortured. I can be killed. Like, I'm an ex-gang member. They're going to kill me if I go back home. That's their declaration of asylum. So now they have to get what's called a screening. And there's two kinds of screenings. One is called credible fear. One is called reasonable fear. And there's not really a difference. There's kind of a standard, but they're kind of weak. It basically means like, have you been deported before or not? Kind of, right? Well, USCIS asylum officers are the ones that do the screening. And they say basically the point of the screening is them going like, we think you should go to the to the immigration judge, where the immigration judge will give you asylum or not. So they're like the gatekeeper for like, yeah, you qualify, or no, you don't, because it's a lot of them. This is the biggest population of asylum people are defensive asylum. Well, it turns out asylum officers like approve 80% of these cases. Like they're like, yeah, you qualify. Yep, you're good all the way through. And then it turns out immigration judges deny like 90% of these cases. So it's a completely inverted number as far as like, yeah, these guys are credible. And immigration judges are like, no, they're not. But this error gap, this is what that like 7-year wait list is. Okay, so now we're starting to understand the technical nature of like why it's so bad. We'll come back to that. So all these encounters I'm starting to see, and they're kind of starting to get more and more and more. Well, the watch list is capped at 10,000 people, artificially, by the way. It's not like there was no data. It's just government risk adverse. And so we fill it up, and then, we're all having the conversations. We're all having the, like, oh, what should we do? And like everybody was like, yeah, take the fucking cap off. Like, let's go. Like we can manage this, guys. This is not that hard. Now, everybody agreed for it. That's very, very enforcement minded. So I'm not gonna lie to you, FBI, Terrorist Screening Center, USCIS, FDNS officers, blah, blah, blah. We were all like, yep, let's go. The Office of General Counsel for DHS, the Office of Chief Counsel for USCIS, the Office of DHS Policy, and I think one other attorney office for the government, they were like, no, we should go slowly. We should do small increments at a time. We should go, how about let's lift it to 20,000. And when you hit 20,000, we can review it again and look again, right? And so we were just like, that's dumb. Okay, fine, whatever. It's not, we can still it would slow us down by a few days, whatever. No big deal, who cares? And then another policy had to get delegated and discussed and agreed upon. And that policy was, if you're on the TOC watch list, which we're just going to call now, we'll call it the cartel watch list, much easier. If you're on the cartel watch list, and let's say you seek asylum or you go into defensive asylum proceedings, well, the attorneys argued they should come off the watch list. And so everyone was like, no, like, that's going to be a major loophole. Like, do not do that, because they're just going to then say like, okay, well, so we were like hard no. And so then DHS had an internal meeting about it, which I was a part of. And I'm going to explain this in detail, if you don't mind, because I haven't really talked about this a whole lot with many people. Can I get into this one?
I want this to, this is your story. I want to hear all of it.
So this is a conference call between, again, Office of General Counsel for DHS, Office of Policy for DHS, Office of Chief Counsel for USCIS, myself, my colleague Selena, and I think there was a couple. Yeah, there was a guy from CBP, good dude. I won't name him. My colleague, by the way, passed away, so I can say her name now. Her name is Selena. She died of cancer. Good person, but again, she passed away. And then there was, I think, somebody from ICE as well. And so we were all like, like, no. And all the attorneys were like, yes, So we argued, basically saying, guys, like, all they're going to do is they're all going to seek defensive asylum now. When they're getting kicked out, when they're getting deported, they're just going to go like, yeah, can't go back home. Like, fucking gangsters talk, guys. Like, they network just like everybody else in the world, like, this will get out very quickly. No. And so we said, what's your reservations? Like, what's the reasoning why you guys don't want to do this, or why you guys want to take them off the watch list? And they were like, well, see, the thing is this, if they stay on the watch list and then they get accounted for their asylum interview, well, that's going to ping on the notification like, hey, asylum, right? That's a protected class. So the rest of the TOC working group, they're not privy to, they can't know that. They're not privy to it. So we were like, okay, so just don't put it on there. Just put USCIS encounter. And they were like, yeah, but So here's the thing, like then, we put USCIS encounter for like a work authorization. But if we leave it blank, well, then everybody's going to know, of course, that, it's their asylum. I'm like, okay, so let's just use all USCIS encounter for every single one. The talk work group doesn't care about like the immigration benefit. It's like, they don't give a shit. They just care like who saw the guy, right? And they were like, yeah, but if we just put USCIS encounter for every encounter, that's not good information, Also, like a lot of these, a lot of the information we get from foreign countries, well, they've got corruption in their governments, so we can't really, we shouldn't be so like gung ho about like watching these guys. And so I was like, okay, really quick. Every alien number, for example, that starts off with A212, that's a refugee from Iraq. Like that is a program that's codified. Everybody knows that. Every CBP officer, every ICE agent, every fucking judge, every attorney, A212, that's your alien number, you are a refugee and you're from Iraq. Bam. And actually,
And are they going in through Mexico?
Oh no, that's a different story. But the point is, like,
okay,
listen, like we already can see who are refugees just based on basic information. Like, so this is a bad argument. Like you're arguing like a very fallacious position based on what's already kind of current government practice. And I brought this up and addressed it, and they just were silent on the phone, like quiet. So like my side was like, yeah, that's a good argument. And then again, the attorneys and the policy people, they sat there quietly, and then they were like, okay, so the next thing to talk about, they just completely like ignored it. And I was just like, okay, so they're going to force this thing through. Okay, so that's going to be policy now. If you're on the watch list and, you seek defensive asylum, you're coming off. And that approved, that got passed. And we were just like, what the hell? Yeah.
Let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So the new law is if you're seeking asylum and you're on the watch list, then you automatically come off the watch list so that you can become a citizen of the United States.
Well, so two things. So the automatic part is yes, but it does take a human review. So once it pings, it's supposed to go to like a certain analyst at the terrorist screening center where he goes, okay, verify the identity. Okay, is that the right name spelling? Okay, is that the right this? So it takes a little bit of time. So it is automatic, but again, it takes a human being to do the qualifying part for it. The second part is they're not guaranteed to become citizens, but yes, asylum is a route to citizenship. Major problem there, obviously, right? But yeah, what you're saying is true. So we'll get back to that, right? And so this policy gets put in place. And so like the rate of like, filling out that 10,000 per time, it kind of slows down a little bit because guess what? A lot of people are coming off the watch list because it's like, well, no shit. Like these are bad guys exploiting our immigration process. So yeah, the rate's going to slow down a little bit. But we fill out 20,000, we fill out 30,000. CBP is doing a great job at finding all the bad guys and watch listing them. But as they come in and get forced out, they'll start falling off. So it's kind of like building sand. Like, yeah, you can build it up, but like it's going to keep falling down at times, right? And you can only really get to peak efficiency at a certain height of using sand. That's kind of like what it is. And so that's that. So then 2020 hits, the whole COVID thing, and like we're on forced telework now. Obviously, everyone I think kind of changes a little bit. Just a quick like 20-second review of what I was. I was like an atheist who didn't really do like I believed in logic, and I was like that guy. And like I got baptized in 2022 as an Eastern Orthodox Christian. So it's like I did my 180, in life because I went through COVID, and it was like, yeah, and I was never a leftist. Don't get me wrong. I was always right wing. Further now, but. Like a lot of people I think didn't, and whatever. So come October of 2020, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm looking at this situation, and I'm like, they're gonna get Trump out. Like I don't know how they're gonna do it, but there's no way they let him stay in. This is just over, right? So I reached out to Project Veritas. I was terrified, and I was just like, listen, guys, like I don't feel comfortable anymore. Like I just feel like I'm getting paid by the system very handsomely, by the way. I'm getting paid by the system. It's a great job, all these benefits, I'm like, but I'm doing the wrong thing. Like I know shit's wrong, but it's like, I'm allowing it to happen by not doing anything about it. Now I've tried working within the system. I've tried doing the good steward. That didn't work. So it's like, okay, well now what can I do? So I just reached out to him and I said like, listen guys, I have no idea what's going to happen, but let's keep each other in contact. Right. So they signed me to this journalist, right? And I got terrified. I got completely bitched out. They sent me like a cell phone. I had it on for like a day or two. Then like one day I saw this car driving to my house. And I was like, my investigation. I turned the phone off, wrapped in a foil. I dug it in the backyard. I'm like, I'm gonna burn that thing in a week if it's still there. Like I'm just at the point where I was terrified.
Paranoid.
Yeah. And then I was like, a week later goes by. I'm like, Aaron, you're being a bitch. Like they're not. If it would have happened, what happened? Like just man up. So I turned it back on. I called the guy. I was like, sorry, I completely pussied out. Pardon my French. But I was like, yeah, I weaked out. So they were like, well, do you want to meet James? He's going to be in town because the Trump rally come up on the 6th. And I was like, yeah, I can meet him. And he can either come over to my place. It's obviously like out of the limelight. I'm in Virginia. It's more, it's just more quiet, if you will. You won't, or I can meet him there if he's busy, whatever. So January 6th comes around and I go to DC to meet him. And it's like, service sucks in DC. It's not because of the buildings, it's because it's just government stuff. So like, I'm trying to get hold of them. It's not going through. And I'm talking to like their like, all their people trying to coordinate who's where, whatever. I finally meet him and we go up to like his hotel and we're all in a room, some other journalists. And I'm just talking to him, explaining like, yeah, guys, there's this asylum thing. This is really bad. Like, this is like, like I'm breaking down, like, it's all about asylum. It's all about these rule changes. And it's all about this cartel watch list. Like, this is really, really bad. Like, we could be doing great things and we're not, blah, blah, blah. And then it's one of the camera, or not camera guys, but one like the tech guys, he's checking his phone and he's just like, holy shit, guys, turn the TV on. And that was when the Capitol happened, right? So we're all like watching it on TV.
Oh,
and it's
no.
like, wow, we're like 3 blocks away. So like one of the dudes there is great American, very patriotic. He's like, let's go right now. And I was like, I don't think you should, dude. I don't know, man. Like that, I don't see what's going to happen on this. It's good. But like, he's like, so that was my J6 story. I drive back home that night and, it's like, after seeing what happened at the Capitol and it's like, okay, it's go to bed, have a drink, kind of think about stuff, wake up in the morning. And I'm starting to hear about like, oh, we're going after this. This is an insurrection. That narrative starts building. And now I'm kind of sitting back looking at it like, okay, this government's going to really show itself now. It's not going to change, by the way. It's going to show itself. Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, shit, like we're hitting that part in life now where it's like, and then like 2 days later, I see them arresting guys in West Virginia. And I was just like, all right, let's see what happens. So I get my approval because all this process is going on, by the way. I get my approval to becoming a remote employee. And so now I'm going to go like move to where my kids are because I've been divorced for a while now, but I still have 2 kids. I don't always have to go fly them or fly to go see them every like month and a half. But it's like now I get a chance to move to an office where it's like very close to them. And I was like, finally, like I get to be with my children a lot more in my life now. And it's just like, that was awesome. So I move out there, but just prior to that, it was February of 2021. I come across this encounter in my inbox. Remember those cartel watches encounters? And normally they say things like, inbound flight or deportation flight or like a prison encounter or a DUI arrest, the guy seeking an immigration benefit. That's what you usually see for the codes, right? Mm-hmm. So this, actually, I wonder if I can just send you a screenshot of that.
You probably can.
Let me look
send
for
it to me in a DM.
Yeah, I'll DM you on Twitter. I can't really always walk and chew bubblegum. Do you want to talk for a little bit while I find this picture and send it to you?
Yeah, okay. I will talk for a little bit. Guys, let's do a little reset of the room. We are talking with Aaron M. Stevenson. He is a DHS whistleblower, and we are super excited to have him here. He's telling us his story, and I don't know exactly how it ties into child trafficking. I want to know it all because but not very many people. I've never seen anyone interview him. This is live. This is not going to be chopped or cut. This is raw. This is real. So thanks for being here.
Yep. So it's in your inbox on Twitter. So check that out real quick. So, and I'll show you, I'll talk through it really quickly. I already redacted all of the whole, the personal identifying information. So it's not illegal for you to have that. Obviously the part where it's like, it says unclassified, law enforcement sensitive. It's already in the public. Don't worry about it. And I post that thing on Twitter all the time anyways. All right. So when I say encounter, this is what I'm talking about. So this is the email that comes across, right?
Let me remove this banner real quick. That's on there. Hold on. There we go.
Okay. So this is the email that comes across. Again, it's very baseline. It's just straight up information, right? So this is the one that I saw in March. The first one I saw was in February 2021. Joe Biden's first, month in office. Now, by the way, by December of 2020, we already knew like there's a border run coming. Like CBP was reporting it on classified level. But everybody knew it's like, holy shit, there's gonna be a massive run at the border. We just had no idea how big. And so by January, we're seeing the encounters really start to pick up. February, and now I'm seeing the encounters now. All of a sudden, we're seeing about like up to 20 a week. So it's starting to increase. It's like all-time high. And again, it's a watch to 40,000. So 20 a week. It's a kind of significant number. It's like, yeah, they're very active here in this country. And here we go. This thing comes across, and on the top part, you see subject, classification, SRN, date, watch list status, blah, 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 blah. Hit reason. It says NGI. That's an acronym for next generation identification, which means it came from additional like entities outside of the initial collection of the TOC mission, basically. In this case, that bottom paragraph, the guy's name is blocked out, but he works for the Special Identities Unit of the FBI. This person was advised of a next generation identification hit on a subject whose fingerprints were received by HHS for 6 USC 279 UAC sponsor. So it's February, right? I see that thing the first time and I'm like, okay, whatever the hell that is. Next, I'm going through my day, whatever. I have no idea. But then I see this one in March and I'm like, and by the way, I had just moved like 3 days prior. This is one of the first things I saw when I got to my new place where I was living at. I log in, I'm kind of catching up on work. So I had to move across country, with emails, and I see this one and I'm like, I recognize that code. I'm like, where did I see that from before? I'm like 6 USC, like where? So I Googled it in my inbox because I had every record of the entire watch list history of this program in my inbox. So I searched for it like, via text, and only 2 records matched, the one from February and the one from today I was looking at. I was like, what is this then? Like, did we start doing like a new code and the program, or we started like, what the hell's going on? So I'm a human being. I Google it and it comes back to 6 United States code, unaccompanied alien child sponsor. And this is the program of unaccompanied kids at the border. And so like most Americans probably, I was like, okay, what the hell is that? Like, I'm still not there yet. Like, what is this thing? And so I'm learning about it, looking at it. And it's like this program where these kids are by themselves and they arrive at the border and then they like come to the country. And I was like, oh, was that the kids in cages thing? Was that whole like kids in cages? That was that thing, right? Like, I don't know about it. So I start calling people at work. I'm DMing them and I'm hitting them up. And I'm like, I'm asking people at the office that I'm, remote at. And I was like, hey, do we do anything with like unaccompanied kids? Like, is that our territory? Is that our, they were like, is that like a special juvenile immigrant, SGI? And I'm like, no, this is a different thing. This is an unaccompanied kid. That's a whole different whatever. Do we do anything with that? They were like, no. I was like, all right. So that's my boss. And he was like, I have no idea, dude. Okay. Then I asked, like other guys at CBP and I have friends at CBP and ICE, and I'm calling around. And I was just like, hey, you guys are like, in the analysis job. Like, do you guys look at this stuff? Like, what the hell this thing is? And I showed them the record. They were like, never heard of it. So I started reaching out to the rest of the TOC working group, like DOJ and FBI and the DHS-INA. And I'm asking now, like, I'm kind of broadening my, like, okay, who do I know, right? Everybody, labor, everybody's like, nope, never heard of it. No idea. Why? What's the big deal? And I was like, I don't know. There's like a sponsor or whatever doing this thing. And so now I'm starting to search up records of, like reporting on intel channels, and I'm all the top secret, all the secret, all the classified, looking up the unaccompanied child program. Like, no one reports on this thing. There's no standardized reporting this thing. I was just like, okay, so I guess my question now is like, well, this person on this watch list that you can't see because it's blacked out. But I was like, okay, so this guy's an MS-13. So why would an MS-13 member be trying to get an unaccompanied child? And when you say it out loud, it makes sense. And it's just like, okay, why would an MS-13 member be trying to get a child? And I was like, holy shit, there's an MS-13 member trying to get a kid. And then it clicked. And I was just like, oh. So I went back to the inbox. I searched again, looking for anything before. And it's like, nope. The first time this ever happened was February 2021. Second time was that March. And I was just like, okay, like,
Okay, so pause right there.
yeah,
So 2021, February, we have a brand new president, Joe Biden. So was not happening before, according to these records. Just
right.
saying.
And this is, by the way, this is where it's not just a coincidence. So this is kind of the key part here. Okay, so April hits, and a third encounter comes across of a different alien. And again, like, gave the fingerprints to HHS, to blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, okay, that's 3 in 3 months. And I started looking at the immigration history of these people. One was a chick, 2 were dudes. The chick was from, I think, like El Salvador. The guy was from Honduras. Third guy's from Guatemala. The chick was MS-13. The other 2 were 18th Street Gang. And I was just like, okay, hold on. These are 2 different gangs, but in 3 different countries. And I was just like, that's odd. In May, a 4th one hit. It was a Romanian guy from Romania who came across the border illegally, and he was in a totally different gang. So it's like, okay, that's 4 in 4 months. That's 3 different gangs from 4 different countries. And I was like, there's something here. I have no idea what the hell it is, but this is the key part. They're gangs, right? So if a gang, like, I don't know, let's just do this one really quick. If a gang created a new drug, right, a whole new market of drugs to sell to like customers and like get money, blah, 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 they wouldn't share their secrets, their tradecraft, their product with other gangs. They wouldn't.
No.
That's just stupid, right? If Coca-Cola made a new drink, they wouldn't give it to Pepsi, right? And so I was just like, okay, there's something here. Like, I don't know what it is, but it stinks. So I'm already talking to the journalist of Veritas. I'm like, dude, like, no one I talk to within the intelligence part of the government, like, they're not tracking this, they're not talking about it, there's no reporting on it. Like, there's just these encounters and I have no idea what the hell it means. And
Okay,
I was
hold
just
on one
like,
sec.
yeah.
So what I don't know how much of Operation Gladio that you've listened to or that you know about, but this is exactly so you have your CIA, and then you have a branch of the CIA that is the dark, which works on dark funds, dark monies, and they have this very intricate network where it involves the banking system, not just the regular banking system, but the huge banking
Oh,
system,
yeah.
the
Let's
Vatican,
just
and they control the cartels. And
Yeah,
so for
let's
you
interject something
saying this
really
type
quickly,
of
by the
that,
way,
yeah,
because this is let's stick within the time frame of reality, right? So this is early
okay,
2021. Trafficking
okay.
rates, did they stay at that like $2,000 a head coming across the border, or do these things kind of skyrocket into like $5,000 a head, $6,000 a head, $7,000 a head? Yeah, these things skyrocketed quickly. It's like, okay, well, the demand increased insanely high, so why would the cartels be pumping up their prices? Like, they're getting more customers. Why would they do this? That might deter, people coming over, or maybe are they taking a cut of somebody else? Maybe someone's above them taking that. Okay, who's that going to be? The Mexican government? Seriously, the cartel controls them. So who's taking the cut of this thing? So yeah, no, I'm there as well in 2021 as being like, yeah, something's here. Like, something smells like really, really bad, but yeah, I just don't know yet. But yeah, no,
Okay,
I
I
totally
didn't mean
agree
to
with
cut
you,
you
that
off. I want you to
premise.
go back to your
I don't know.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but go back to your story where you were talking about all of a
Yeah,
sudden all of these people are connected and
yeah.
it's strange. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track.
No, it's okay. All right, so it's May. Hit up the Journal Veritas, and he's like, I don't know, let me do my journal thing. He starts, digging around, and like, I'm now pissing him off because I call him every day. I'm like, okay, dude, what's up? Okay, what'd you find? Okay, what'd you find? And like, he's not seeing anything at all. And he's like, yeah, but there is like weird stuff. I'm calling adoption places, and it's like, it's weird, man. It's like, you can basically buy kids. He's like, yeah, and I'm calling like foster places. It's like, yeah, it's like he's like kind of showing me reflections on the outside of what's going on. I'm obviously looking at it from like, like before the kid's given away. It's like we can see a bad thing. So it's not really connecting. We're having a hard time like trying to understand it all. June, another one hits. And I was like, bro, like this can't, like, there's something going on. We're seeing this as a pattern now. It's like once every 4 weeks. And again, that watch list is capped at 40,000, and people come off all the time. Now, the other key element in this equation is, again, 4 gangs, 3 gangs, 4 countries, but every single alien, guess what? Yeah, they're on the cartel watch list, but they came over illegally. So they're illegal aliens, first off. And number 2, they're all seeking asylum via credible fear. So it's a matter of time before they come off the watch list. So the fact that we're seeing them before they come off, it shows you it's like, okay, that's when I was like, this has got to be much bigger than I realized, because the actual watch list should be like a couple 100,000. And like, it's only 40,000. we're seeing this as a pattern. I'm like, man, this is just, I don't know, right? So I push on him, the journal. I'm like, dude, if you guys can't do a story, it's like, just interview me. And like, I'm terrified, right? So I'm like, yeah, just blot me out. Like, I'm not gonna lose my job, but like, you can do the whole thing in shadows. I've seen you guys do it before, whatever. So they agreed to do that. So in July of 2021, I go out to where they were basically. I do my interview. And right before I get out there, DHS Intelligence and Analysis. This is the actual intel component this is the actual DHS component attached to the intelligence community, right? So not all of DHS, even though if you got top secret, even if you're an intel guy, if you're not with INA, you're not in the IC. The IC is the 17 agencies, blah, blah, blah. So DHS INA published a document, unclassified, which is, it's called a, Gorilla Stomp. The watch list is kept. And again, the true numbers are huge. So this product that DHS INA produced it's called a collection primer. And it was a collection primer on international organized crime. Okay. So intelligence, it's an industry. It's an economy. It's its own enterprise. It's very, very structured, right? It's not like just a bunch of people running around doing stuff. It's very top down. Like president wants to know stuff, you guys answer him, right? Well, some of those things, the president on the National Intelligence Priority Framework talks about transnational organized criminals. And the basic questions are like, where are they coming from? What are they doing? How and why are they here? Immigration, right? But also it's like, what are their activities? Like, what are the indicators and warnings for these things? How can we answer questions? And that's what, going down the rungs, the intelligence chiefs are supposed to be able to look at those questions, go like, okay, we can look at this, we can look at that. Here's our key intelligence questions. You guys answer these questions. So again, we all know what's going on, right? So this product comes out and it's a 8-something page document. I read through it and nowhere inside there is child trafficking. So the collection primer, what they are focusing on, the primer of collecting information on for intelligence value, is all guns and drugs, nothing about trafficking. And that was right before I did the interview. And I was just like, that makes sense. No one's talking about it. Like no one in the community is talking about it because we're not being told to look for it. That makes sense. They're shifting priorities. I was like, okay, well, here we go. Let's do the interview, right? So do the interview. They published it in August 2021. And by the way, the purpose of me doing this interview was kind of twofold. One, it was like, it's to tell American people what's going on. Like, this ain't good. Like, we got to know what's going on. This is really, really bad, right? But the other part was, which I didn't say on camera, obviously, but it was like, okay, there have got to be people out there that like see what's going on. They gotta have, someone's got to be out there. So this was, as I say, this was like throwing a flag in the air. I'm like, basically, does anybody see this going on out there? And that was my intent, right? There's 3 really awesome women in Pomona, California that saw it. That is Tara Rodas, Debbie White, and Myra Moreno. And so I think it was Debbie that saw it, the video, and then she shared it with like, her close friends, and they were all like, holy shit, that's us. Like, because they're processing the kids. They were already seeing trafficking patterns. They were already seeing like, wow, a bunch of kids went to that one address. That's not good. Wow, a bunch of kids
Tell me what their roles are with the DHS just a little bit so people can
no.
understand.
So they weren't DHS. They were actually they were volunteer. They were federal employees that volunteered to go to Pomona, and there's also other sites that process the case management for these kids coming across the border. So they were the ones that would say, okay, let's find your sponsor that you were given. There's that phone number on your jeans. We're going to call the guy and we're going to match you guys up. That's what they were doing. But they were already seeing trafficking patterns, and they were just like, oh my goodness, Well, then they see me on a dark video and I'm all like, the sex trafficking kids are gangs. It's very scary, right? But they were like, oh my gosh, like we're seeing that here. So they reached out to Veritas and they were like, hey, like that video, we're actually seeing stuff on right now.
Okay, so let's pause for just a second.
Yep.
So you'd already done the Project Veritas video, and it was people had already been seeing it. It was already live in public, and they saw this video. Okay, I missed that part.
Yeah. So that was, again, now we're in August 2021, right?
Okay.
So now we're here, and I'm just, I'm back at work. No one knew it was me, right? No one knew because again,
Okay,
I was
okay.
anonymous. I was in shadows. They covered my voice. So I was gonna work, and it's it's kind of weird because like, geez, I just did that, and I'm fed, and like it's kind of awkward, right? But no one knew it was me, and they start doing their reporting, and then eventually Tara comes out public in like November of 2022. So that was a very long year and like 3 months for me. So once I did
Wow.
that, I have no information as far as anything child trafficking for like a year and like a few months because there was no other development. There was like, yeah, like there was some thing about someone came out about like flights, but it's like, okay. And then in I don't pee digits. And then in what was it? August of 2021, I saw this rule change coming out, and this is like the key thing too. This is the whole rule change stuff. So we all remember the TV show Schoolhouse Rock, right? Schoolhouse Rock.
I
I'm just a
probably
bill on Capitol Hill. The whole like this is how a
I
law is
never
made.
watched TV.
Okay, no worries.
I'm a nerd.
Your viewers might, right? Well, so
Yeah.
the way the American people typically think the government works is whether hook or by crook, like Congress writes a bill, and then they vote on it, and it goes to the president, that process, right? There's this other thing called administrative law. Administrative law is a creature of the Administrative Procedure Act of like 1946. This is the FDR thing where he like blew up the size of the government. Well, all of a sudden they were like, okay, well, we have all this government now, but it's like, yeah, but it's not very autonomous. It's like, it still goes back to me. And it's like, I can't manage all these things. So they created an act called the APA, Administrative Procedure Act, where it gives these executive agencies the ability to make little tweaks, little rule changes, which is legislative law. So this is the part where, the executive branch now has legislative authority. And at first, it's like, yeah, it's the Tennessee Valley Authority. It's like small time stuff. Well, government grows, right? So over time, it gets bigger and worse and bigger and worse and bigger and worse. So October 2021, there's a rule change, which is it's between two agencies, or two departments, DOJ and DHS. They're going to give the adjudicative authority for defensive asylum. Remember that whole little loophole, that horrible process? Well, immigration judges, part of DOJ, they deny like 88% of these cases. Okay. Immigration or asylum officers who approve them to get there approve like 88% of the cases, complete inversion of the numbers. They're going to switch out the adjudicative authority or the final approval. They're going to give it from an immigration judge, give it to an asylum officer. And I was just like, no fucking way. Like, there's no way they're doing this. Like, I can see it on the wall already. It's like, okay, this is October 2021. Border rush is going on, about 250,000 crossings per month. And I was just like, this is going to become amnesty without them doing an amnesty bill. And I was telling this to the Journal of Veritas. I'm like, dude, like, this is going to be really, really bad. Like this cannot get approved because if they get asylum, which the asylum officers will give them, that's a route to citizenship. Like you're getting amnesty without the dirty name amnesty. It's like there's no scarlet letter anymore. It's like this is gonna be bad, dude. He's like, it's like it's not gonna catch, dude. No one's gonna care. And I was like, okay, I'll do an interview again. He's like, dude, it's like this is boring. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, Aaron. It's like no one's gonna care about this. And I was like, then I won't do it. I'll do face involved. I'll show the American people like, hey guys, I'm a Fed. This is really bad. Go in there and leave comments. Like make sure that So I do. So October, I do the interview.
Oh, no.
He was right, by the way. Like almost nobody cared. Like people watched it, people saw it, but it's like the part was like, hey guys, go to the Federal Register and leave comments saying don't do this. They'd leave comments on the video on Instagram being like, yeah, this is messed up. It's like, carry your comment to the Federal Register. It's like, guys, like, come on. So in the interview, they were like, well, you came to us previously, you did the whole like child trafficking, watch this thing, like this is you now, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm public, right? And so work is like, oh, you were the asshole that did that. So first off, by the way, I took a week of sick leave. I was like, yeah, guys, I got COVID. So I'm taking sick leave, right? I took sick leave for a week and then I came back to my inbox like that next Monday morning and they were straight up. They were like, yeah, first off, Aaron, like you're off the watch list. So they rescinded my access, gone. That was October. And by October, by the way, there was 12 aliens on the watch list, all in defensive asylum, all trying to get a kid. So it came out to that many in 8 months. Pretty quick, right? So that rate, by the way, shows you it wasn't just increasing, it was progressing. It wasn't a straight curve.
It was exponential.
Yep, it was starting to go up. So they gone. And then, they were told, I was told, I had some colleagues at work tell me on the side, they were like, that was really cool, but like we were told not to talk to you anymore. It's like, I
What?
understand. Yeah, I understand. It's like, that's how it works. I get it. I knew this going in. It's like, I knew right away. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose my job. It'll probably be
A
somewhat of a
cushy
long
job,
process.
making good money, being a
Yeah.
computer analyst.
Yeah, but and again, I also just got out to where my kids live too. It's like I was finally living a good life, and like this crap just fell in my lap, and I was like, like, what do I do? But it's like at this point in time, I'm already converting. I'm already kind of going through the process of like, again, I was full on atheist, and then now I'm like, okay, well, that's not true, and I'm learning more about like religion and Christianity. And then the Sunday after I did that rule change, I went to church for the first time ever, and then I was like, okay, yeah, like this is where it's at. Oh, okay. Still kind of scary.
So
I'm not gonna lie to you.
you went to church after they started changing these rules, and you knew that these people were coming in, and you knew that under this, that there was gonna be people that children were gonna be sent to these dudes that are part of gangs, and they're gonna
Yeah.
have citizenship in the United States.
Yeah. So, this is what, mid-October, and basically it's very quiet because like no one like talks to me at work anymore. Very quiet up until what was it, January, February of 2022. And the investigators reached out to me. They're like, "Hey, Aaron, we're with internal whatever investigations, whatever it's called." They were like, we're going to interview you. And I was like, yeah, sure. What's it for? Like, I'm not toying with them, but I'm like, no, let's be professional. I'm like, what's it for? They were like, well, you know what it's for. It's because you did the blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, that's cool. Let's do it. So then, they were like, okay, this is the appointment date. It'll be done via virtually because you're still, out there, not like headquarters. Like, oh, yeah, cool. And so I called up my Journal of Veritas and I'm like, yeah, dude, like, I got my investigation coming up. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm doing investigation. They were like, well, so what? I'm like, I don't know. They're gonna ask questions. I got to answer them. He was like, dude, do not do that. It's like, get an attorney. Like, what are you, stupid? He knows me, right? I'm confrontational. I'm not gonna, ask a question, I'll answer, right? So I get an attorney, and I reach out to the investigator. I was like, hey guys, like, this is I CC'd my attorney. This is his name. This is his phone number. So I don't know if you guys got to like patch him in or how this works on Microsoft Teams, but whatever. They didn't respond to it. So I told my attorney, I'm like, I'm not getting any responses. They respond to you? They were like, no. And it's like, well, it starts at 20 minutes. We've been like, getting nothing for a week from the investigators. He's like, all right, just log in. I'll free my schedule. Text me. We'll go from there, right? So I log into investigation, the initial one, and they were like, hey, this is investigator Steve, whatever. And so we start the process, and I was like, hey guys, before we like get in the first question, like, I asked if my attorney could be here, but you guys never responded to that. And they were like, yeah, well, it's kind of it's policy that you don't get an attorney for this because this is this isn't like a criminal thing, but like you don't get an attorney. But if you want to have the union representative, which I blew the whistle on, if you want to have the union come in and like represent you, you can have them. And I'm like, okay, well, first off, no, I blew the whistle on them because they're the ones who wrote the policy for the rule change. But number two, I'm like, I'm not part of the union. Like, I'm an intelligence analyst. We're not allowed to be in a union because we're national security employees. Like, we have no rights. Like, government could say, like, you're working 20 hours today. Look, go find terrorists. Okay. But like an immigration officer belongs to a union. So they're like, we need some new pencils in the break room. And the union guy goes like, okay, that's what it's supposed to be. But really they write policy for the deep state. So I was like, all right, guys, well, my attorney told me he's got to be on this thing. So like, I'm going to mute you guys. Okay, I'll turn the volume down. I'm going to call my attorney and like, let me just ask him because they're like, that's fine. We understand that. So I called my attorney. I'm like, yeah, they're saying like, you can't be in here because it's like policy. He was like, yeah, Aaron, you're not doing this without me. Hold on, mute, volume up, unmute. I'm like, yeah, my attorney said like I shouldn't be doing this, man. So I do that like 3 or 4 times. What's that?
I said, good for your attorney. I'm glad you had an attorney.
Yeah. Because this is not my world, right? And so we go back and forth, and I was just like, guys, I think we're at an impasse. Like, you guys are telling me I can't. He's telling me I need to. Like, maybe you guys should talk, right? And so we end the phone call. they end up talking after the next like however long. And I asked my attorney, I'm like, so what they say? They were like, well, they told me it's their opinion that you don't have an attorney. I was like, well, they told me it's policy. I don't have an attorney. Like an opinion and a policy are two very different things. Like the government, when they say policy, that's like written down, might as well chisel it, right? An opinion is
Yeah.
not that. So he's like, listen, Aaron, he's like, they will not let me in these meetings, but like you're allowed to have counsel. And I was like, then I'm not doing these things. I'll tell them like I'll participate, but I'm not going to answer any question without my attorney. So we set it up again. Now we got to do the dog and pony show, right? So I was like, hey guys, based on my counsel's advice, I'm reading the little, thing. And then they're like, all right, okay, cool. We shut it down, whatever. So this is February 2022. So I'm still working, still doing my job. And I come across this list of, remember, really quick, by the way, do you remember in August 2021, the U.S. government and the military left Afghanistan? And there was
Oh,
that
yeah, that horrible withdrawal? Yeah.
really bad thing in Kabul, right?
Yeah.
So back in 2012 and 2011, I was supporting special forces as a contractor, right? And I made friends, and we just kind of stayed friends over years. So in early August 2021, my buddy hits me up and like a signal message is like, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna tag you in a group conversation really quick, right?" I was like, "Okay." And all of a sudden, this group convo appears, and it says like, he tags me in a question where it says like, "Hey, how does this thing work for immigration?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's that form. This is how it works." Blah blah blah. Answered it. Then I went back to my buddy. I'm like, "What the hell was that?" And he's like, "You're watching what's going on in Kabul right now, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I am." He's like, "Yeah, like it's going down, dude." It's like so this was a channel full of a lot of operators and analysts that had made friends with their legitimate, by the way, like translators and whatever else. This was the Task Force Pineapple type thing. It wasn't Task Force Pineapple. This was a different like group of people, but these were a bunch of former operators and former analysts trying to get their sources and their translators like the out of Afghanistan while they could. And so I was like, well, I think I'll just stay in the room then because, I can answer immigration questions. And so now, like for the next, 15 or 17 days, I'm watching what's going on virtually. I was not in Kabul, but I'm watching virtually all the message traffic, everything going on. So it's like 5 hours before the attack at Abbey Gate, we knew about the attack at Abbey Gate because all the intel was already being shared and blah, blah, blah. And so I knew there was a lot of bad guys coming in based on like what was happening, right? So fast forward again to February 2022. I come across this list, unclassified, that's got all these Afghans on there. And I was like, check it out. So I start going through their immigration history and like, okay, they all came in initially through, the whole fiasco, the withdrawal. Oh shit, that guy's watched as terrorists. He landed in Dulles and like 8 days later, FBI was like, that's a terrorist. Oh, there's another one. And I'm like, holy shit, we brought in a lot of terrorists. So I take this entire list, and for the next whatever it was, 5 straight days, I'm copy and paste. I'm working 10-hour days now, just copy and pasting, going through every single alien on that watch list. And there's murderers, there's arsonists, there's spies, there's there are a bunch of bad guys, right? And so I record all this stuff and I send it to my Journal of Veritas, each one individually. I'm like, hey, remember that, Kabul thing? He's like, yeah. I'm like, remember I told you they're going to bring a lot of bad guys? He goes, yeah. I'm like, here they are. And I got I think around 50 or 60 or whatever. It was a list of 600. This was not the entire list. This was a very small list. And I found a bunch of bad guys. And by the way, just because a lot of these guys aren't watched as terrorists, but it's but they were fired from working on a coalition base for taking pictures of the flight line and having classified maps. It's that's an intelligence asset. Or that guy was a collector. That's not just some Mujh Taliban guy with a machine gun. That's a bad guy. And now he's here, right? And so I was explaining to him, dude, this is really bad. So then they processed it for the next few months. I get basically my job pulled back to headquarters. So I go back east. And now they're headquartered in Maryland. And, I show up day one. I'm like, all right, you guys pull me back. Walked in the office, walked in the skiff. And I was like, yeah, bad guys means these are foreigners that, again, are either terrorists or spies or murderers. There was rapists. There was arsonists, bad guys, people that should not be here at all. They came over into the United States after being vetted, okay, in other countries. They landed inside of the United States, Dulles, Philadelphia, etc. Weeks later, they're being watched as bad guys. So I'm now back in Virginia, or I'm living in Virginia. I'm back there, and it's kind of quiet. I go into work like once, twice a week, whatever. And then Veritas does their story about all the terrorists. And like, okay, well, the first thing the government did was like, okay, who queried all these aliens? Yeah, there was one guy, me. So they were like, all right, Aaron, go home. Like you don't go to work anymore. You're on telework. You're forced telework. We will let you know when what's going to happen is going to happen, right? So now I go back home. I'm just teleworking, and they told me like you can't do any more work. Like you have to log in every day, and you can't like do any casework. My access was gone, like at everything, and it was just sit around and wait. So I'd be reading books, just keeping the mouse active, whatever, right? So I'm in that status for about almost 4.5 months, give or take. And then it was October, I think 27th or 28th. My boss told me, it was like, hey, Aaron, come to work next day. So I go into work that like Thursday or Friday, what it was. And then, he's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna fire you, right? So this is like your firing paperwork. So these are the charges against you. You've got like 30 days to respond, and you got to do this, and that. And then we have 30 days to find our decisions, whatever else. It's fine, whatever, no problem. So I go back home, and I was like, all right, it's finally happening. Again, I found corruption, I found bad things. Like that's it. I've done the. I think I've done a good thing. Maybe I should just, now I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do in life? I will never be an intel guy ever again. Like that career has been burned because I blew the whistle on it like 3 times. So now what? I was like, I think I'll become a garbage truck driver. It's like, that's been my dream job as a kid, drive around garbage truck
driver?
Yeah. I've always wanted to do that. It's a
No,
noble
you'd be
job.
so smelly.
That's a noble job. It's just, it looked like good, honest work. So next morning I wake up and I go to watch a buddy. I'll go with a friend of mine. He lived out in by Annapolis. We would go watch a Navy football game, right? Well, that night prior though, sorry, I skipped that part. The night prior, I get a phone call from, extended family basically, and somebody very important in my kids' lives went through a pretty bad medical episode. But it's like, okay, that's bad, but like, they're in the hospital, recovering, looks good. And so then like next day, like looking okay. Next day, it's like, this is really bad. Like this person, is probably gonna die actually. And so it's like, oh wow, okay, well, I'm in Virginia. I need to get out to my kids right now. So I go to where my kids are at, fly out there, and I obviously immediately get to them. And then now I'm like, managing that. So I tell my attorney, I'm like, dude, like I gotta do this. Like I can't do that. You do that, right? So my work basically approved, like, okay, you can take leave during this process. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to burn all my leave out here. So, I kept my kids in school because they wanted to go to school. So I got my laptop shipped out to me where I was at. Log in, I'm okay, guys, back to work, and let me know when I'm fired, whatever. Cooking, making sandwiches for the kids and whatever else. And then like 4 days goes by, and my boss is like, where are you at? And I was like, I'm in out of state. I went to where my kids are. Like, did you not hear somebody very important? My kids had a huge episode medically. I'm taking care of my kids now. They were like, we didn't approve your telework. I was like, I'm on forced telework. Like, I can't go to the office. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but you're telework out of state though. And I was like, okay. They're like, well, if you're going to be doing that, you gotta take leave. And I was like, guys, fine, charge me leave. You fill it out. I'm not doing shit. It's whatever, guys. I gotta deal with this. So I burn all my leave. I burn all my sick leave. They do not allow, and they don't allow anybody to do it for me. You can do what's called donating leave, right? So like if someone had a heart attack at work, they have to get treatment. They only have like 2 weeks of leave. Hey, here's 2 weeks of leave for you, buddy. Now he's got 4 weeks of leave. Like you can do that. They didn't allow that for me. So my leave runs out. I haven't been getting paid for like 3 or 4 weeks, give or take. And they were like, all right, you're fired, Aaron. And that was that. And I was like, okay, well, thanks for burning my leave. I could have sold it all, assholes, but whatever. And so, yeah, then that happens. But sorry, I skipped the huge part too. This is the critical part of the story. They fired me in February 2023. Well, just before that, because remember, October was that like I have to move out to my kids. November of 2022, Tara Rota's story comes out. And this was the whole, like, she's like, yeah, I was at HHS. I was doing case management for kids. These kids are getting trafficked. I saw the story and I called up the journalist of Veritas. It was number still, obviously. And I was like, dude, please tell me, like, this came from us. Like, this has been a year now, a year and like a few months for me. Like, I blew the whistle on that thing. Like, please tell me this is from us, bro. He's like, yeah, it is. And she's been trying to get a hold of you. She wants to talk to you really badly, you know? So we exchanged numbers. I called Tara Rodas, meet her over the phone. And I was just like, it's so great to meet you. Like, thank you for what you did. Like, you know, I knew it was bad, you know, whatever, right? And then that gets a little emotional for me, sorry. And then it was a long year, guys. So then
Yeah.
Veritas hosts this like event in Arizona. And I was like, you know, okay, it's a whistleblower event. They want to bring them all out there, like, you know, do the whole like, hey, this is who we are, right? And Tara's going. I was like, well, I gotta meet this chick, man. You know, it's like she's the person that saw the flag I threw in the air. Like, I gotta go meet this chick. So I go out there and we're playing phone tag. I finally find her and it's, you know, give her a huge hug. It's like meeting like a family you didn't know you had. Like, she's just the nicest person in the world. And it was great. It was awesome. We're there for like 3 days. I'm an intel guy, you know, so ABCs of intel, always be collecting. And I was like, Tara, tell me, I know you've got more than those 2 videos. Like, tell me everything you know about this program. Like, I got to know what the hell is going on in there. Because I thought, based on like, you know, the amount of border crossings, the size of the watch list, the amount of kids or the amount of sponsors I was seeing, they were bad guys. I'm like, man, there's got to be like, you know, a couple hundred of these sponsors getting, you know, that are traffickers. There might be like a few hundred kids getting trafficked. That's insane to me, right? Meet Tara. She tells me everything. And after like 2 days of hearing this stuff, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, the trafficking number for these kids has got to be in the tens of thousands. Because now I'm learning about like, you know, it's not just one kid going to one sponsor. It could be up to like 40 kids going to a sponsor. And I was just like, okay, this is kind of heavy. And so this is now when I go through my other little epiphany in life where it's like, all right, I'm not going to be a garbage truck driver anymore because I'm driving back home now. And it's a long drive. And I was just like, I'm thinking about everything she said. I'm thinking about the whole thing. And I was just like, there is no way I can, like, I don't know, not like, I can't just continue this anymore. I can't like think I can live a life now of like simplicity. It's like, I got to stay involved. I don't know what the hell to do. So long story short, you know, we started doing trafficking stuff, trying to start learning more things. I'm calling out insiders. I'm doing intel work. I'm trying to understand the whole program. I'm learning about NGOs. I'm learning about contracts and all this weird shit, whatever else. Then in October of 2023, there's this rule change that comes out. Now, I already knew about the program being bad. I already kind of like wrote like analysis on it. I'm trying to like, you know, get my head wrapped around it. I'm an analyst. And this rule change comes out and it's like 300 pages. And it goes through like, hey, we're going to basically take all these practices that HHS decided by ourselves and we're going to codify that into law. So now like it's law. We can now basically legally traffic kids. All the conditions that they set for all the trafficking, they're going to make cemented, calcified, permanent structure now. And we talked.
What year did they do that? Which year was the temporary one? So that they switched from the DOD and DHS.
Oh no, this is a different rule change. Yeah. So by the way, really quick, like the executive branch of the government does like 600 rule changes a month. So this is a completely different rule change. So I'm already fired. Again, this is October 2023, and it's just like I'm looking at this rule change, and it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of bad practices in here. Like they're gonna basically ferment or cement and allow from now on, like, thank you, Mrs. Mack. They're gonna allow now forever, like their ability to just like forego background checks. They're gonna allow, you know, all kinds of crap, right? And it's just like, guys, we can't allow this thing to go through. And they were like, what can we do about this? And it's like, I mean, we have to get people to like leave comments in the Federal Register. And it's like, well, how the hell do we do that? And I'm like, I don't know, like, you know. So we think about it for like a day or two. And it's like, okay, people are lazy, proven that one already. People don't know about this. Okay. They really don't care about this. And to be fair, most people don't care about this. That's a sad state. The people watching this is not about you. Most Americans don't care. It's a hard thing to accept, but it's very true. Another part, obviously, though, is this cognitive bias people have where they refuse to hear bad information. I think it's called the omission bias. they don't want to hear negative stuff, right? So it's like, okay, how do we get people to leave comments into this thing that's really hard to talk about? And it was like, you don't have them do it. You have to force them to do it. So what we did was we read through this like 300 plus page rule change, and we went quick. So we just found like, it was 94 comments, and we went fast. And it's like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and we made a website to where people can go and literally copy, paste, like submit one by one by one. And the intent of it was like, okay, we're going to basically treat this thing like a machine, and we're going to pour fucking sawdust in the machine, and the comments are the sawdust, right? So our goal now is to get as many comments there as possible, because then that agency has to read every single, comment, and they have to respond to it. And that's going to hopefully slow this rule change down to like, hopefully January 2025. Hopefully Trump 2.0 comes in, kills the rule change. Bam. We can like, we've punted this thing far enough to where they can't traffic a bunch of kids as fast as they can. That was the goal. And we had 39 days left. There was a 60-day period of making comments. By the time we finished, there was 39 days left in the comment period. And we just started going on Twitter Spaces. We started going on, small, like just YouTube shows and Rumble shows and whatever we could, right? And then like word kind of grows. It's very organic. It's, it's like a few here, a few there. And you see and by the way, the comments you can do as many as you want. So like you can go through that entire 94 list as many times as you wanted to. And so it's like, wow, we hit 1,000 comments. Like, damn, we hit 5,000 comments. Like, oh my gosh, we just hit 10,000. It's like we hit 5 digits. That's awesome, right? And then we hit up Kyle Seraphin. He's one of the Spendables, another whistleblower. And we were like, dude, can we please go on your show and like do this? He's like, bro, of course, totally. So he hooks us up. And then we go on other shows. Now the shows are getting bigger. I go on Redacted. And it's like, you're starting to see we're hitting like, there's like about a week or so left. We're at 25,000 comments. We're just like, damn, this might happen, man. We're doing really good. And then like, it's starting to really increase. Now we're getting to like 40,000, 45,000. And then the last day of the comment period, we met somebody that knew the Alex Jones show, InfoWars. So Tara goes on in the morning with Alex Jones and is like, going through this thing. And then Alex Jones is like, I need to know more about this thing. Like, let's cancel my afternoon show. Tara, come back, this evening, right? So she goes back on again that night. And then the last day, basically, we ended up, the final count was just under 74,000 comments in this thing. So we were just like, whoa, like that was cool. That might be long enough, right? That was awesome. And then came the thing that we didn't know about and we didn't predict. So there's this thing called a Congressional Review Act. Yeah, well, this is cool. There's this thing called a Congressional Review Act. I didn't know about this thing. I had no idea this thing existed. A Congressional Review Act is like literally the handbrake on the administrative state. And that's where Congress has oversight over a rule change. They have oversight over the executive agencies. So Senator Chuck Grassley, he and like 37 other senators signed on to a letter last day of the comment period. And they were like, no, like guys, like you have clearly demonstrated like, a pattern of trafficking. You guys suck, like kind of like hammers in them, right? With professional language. And so they said, if you do this rule change, we will initiate a CRA. Since 1995, just for context, there's been like 17 successful CRAs. It doesn't happen a lot. And so we saw the letter, we were like, whoa, like, okay, that's cool. And so it's slow. It's still government. It's still Fed. It's very, very slow. So long story short, HHS, because this is also not, the comment period ended like early December. Guys, welcome to the federal government. Nobody works from Thanksgiving to like New Year, right? So I told everybody, like, guys, keep your eyes open for like January 15th-ish. That's when we're gonna be looking at stuff. New Congress, we don't know what's gonna happen really right now. So nothing. And then finally it comes out. They were like, HHS responded. And they were like, yeah, we're gonna do it, which is what we knew. It's like, okay, we know they're gonna do this. So this is like early April this year. They were like, yeah, we're pushing forward this thing. We're gonna do everything we said we're gonna do. And then on June 5th, like a few days ago, Senator Grassley led, I think it was 45 total senators or 44, and he's the 45th, and said, okay, we are going to invoke the CRA. So that whole process right now is going to be taken to Congress by the Senate in which they do whatever the hell they do in the CRA. This is the point now in the story, by the way, though. Once they responded with that first letter, that was like, okay, we are now NPCs. Because like I was never part of the legislative branch. I'm not a senator or a representative or a staffer. So I have no idea what they're doing or how they did it. But it's like, okay, now it's their world and we're just kind of living in it. And we'll wait and see what happens now. So yeah, that's it right there, straight up. So that was a very long 39 days, obviously, like every day, all of us. And at first, like, we just would go on Twitter spaces and like tell people like, hey guys, here's the link, go to the website, copy paste. This is easy. And by the time it was like, we got to 25,000 with not much time left. And it's like, I'm sorry guys, we suck. This is not good enough. Like we have to do more. So I held a Twitter space and I just, I asked people, I'm like, guys, we suck. We got to get better. What do we do? Like what's not working? What's not landing, And we just decided, I told the Whistleblower crew, I was like, guys, first off, like I'm probably done talking in most spaces because you can hear my cadence in my voice. I'm not very, I'm not the guy. I'm not the showman, right? Like, but Tara, Carlos, Debbie, Myra, I'm like, you guys are very empathetic. You can actually connect because you guys are with the kids. Like that's tugging at heartstrings. That's working the best. You guys go do your thing. I'll do whatever else with other shows and like try to do whatever. But like when it comes to anything major, like you guys are the face now because that's what works. And again, that's when the whole thing was like, 40,000, 45,000, 73,000, like really, really quickly. So again, we didn't plan on it. We prayed a lot. The one thing that we did say though, is that when we talked about this, when we first started doing it, which was, like, why are we doing this though? It's like, it's bad. Why is it bad? It's like, again, let's squeeze this, guys. Why are we doing this? We can't just do it because it's bad. Why are we doing this? I landed on personally in the New Testament where Jesus Christ kind of lays it out pretty clearly. It wasn't a parable. It says straight up, if it's Caesar's, give it back to Caesar's, and if it's God's, give it back to God's. And what do people say nowadays? These are God's children. Okay, well then this is kind of logical. This is not a Caesar affair. Like, I'm sorry, handling the transport of kids, just dishing them out across America. It's like, no. God gave that child to two parents. That kid should not be like, so no, this is not okay for the government to be doing. And that was our reasoning for it. So every space we went into, we prayed. Every space we started, we prayed. Before I did this call with you today, I prayed. So it's like, that is our thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm looking at this at least at a very Christian angle. The source is Christ. And it's just like, yeah, he's telling, we're following the rules he told us to do. We're following the commandments he ordered us to do. So that's that. Now we got to wait and see what happens with this CRA.
Okay, so can people still like go to the website and send off a bunch of stuff? Is there is there any action items? Is there anything anyone can do other than?
Yeah. So action items, because that's the thing we care about, right?
Yeah.
We just don't know what they are yet. So again, like this is no longer in like the people's domain. This is now in the, that Senate atmosphere, right? I will say that there are very trusted other whistleblowers. I'm not going to name them, but they're good people.
Yeah, don't ever.
Yep. They're good people. They are in contact with that Capitol Hill building. I'm going to leave it very vague. So I know there's going to be more stuff, but Aaron don't know. Aaron will find out, and whatever needs to happen, obviously, we're going to, do the thing basically. So yeah, people will be involved still, but we just don't know what, when, or where. But there'll be a thing.
Let's try to think. Audience, now that he's done with his little bit, do you guys have any questions that he can answer?
Yeah.
I don't know if Tara would want to come on. I've listened to her speak and she does really good. And I really liked her story. It made me cry. And I know that she just touched on it.
Yeah, Tara, come on. I'm going to text them all right now, actually.
Yeah, I would love to have her come on.
Any questions?
I want to get this message out. Anyone, I'm going to tell you right now, this video right here, it's going to be, I don't know how long it'll be on YouTube. There was nothing that he said that should get me banned. There's no bad words that were used.
I said a few.
It will be at Rumble. Huh?
I said a few bad words.
No, there might be a couple in there. I don't know what they are. And I don't.
I swore. Like I used some vulgar language.
Oh, no, swearing doesn't matter. There's certain words that YouTube flags.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I can't, I'm tired of censoring speech. So I just took a risk and put it out there because I have a good following over there that not all have Rumble, and I wanted them to hear this. But you guys can clip this, you can share this, you can do whatever you want. Please get the message out. If you do, just tag me or tag Aaron so we know where the video is circulating. That way we can repost it. This is information. I'm doing this because I believe in this cause, and the network that he's talking about is I cover it on a different angle, but when he was saying all this stuff, in my head, I'm saying, "Oh, yeah, this is this." He did when he in my opinion, when he's originally going through this, he doesn't know about Operation Gladio, and most people in the government have 0 clue, even in the military. Colonel Towner had 0 clue. She was a colonel. She didn't know till after she was retired, and she found this name in a history book, and she's like, "What is that?" And she started researching it for now over a year, but now you can see patterns. Like the fact that these cartels are connected and they shouldn't be from different countries, that's a pattern. Had he known that pattern, he would have known. So,
And
and
again,
that's I'm not here to talk about that. But
well, no, but that's whenever in the future, especially the child trafficking with the kids of the border thing, that's a very important thing to stress about because people don't quite get that part. Yeah, they understand the cartels. Yeah, they understand it's bad people doing it, but it's like, guys, like it started happening in a very organized way. February of 2021, like these are rival gangs. They're never gonna share resources or like supply, and all of a sudden, like they're all using the same network. Well, then what's the network? So yeah, like just please always be the smart one in the room that can, vouch for those things.
so this is a question for
Tara
you
says yes.
from.
Yeah, Tara says yes, by the way.
Oh yay!
I
Thank
told you, I'm
you.
texting him right now. So they sure said yeah.
I would love to like just tell me
Yeah.
whatever she'd come on because I want this just to get out there.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to come on here,
And she's
I'm
going to
not
pop in the
huge.
chat pretty soon.
Sweet. I'm not a big channel, but I'm good at spreading the word. I'm good at networking. I have a good group of people that will help spread, and that's like any action items.
Yeah.
That's like if there's action items, the story is one thing. Like my daughter, when she was talking about girls going to their aunts or whatever. Oh, I don't think I told the chat this. I'll tell everybody this story. I told him prior to us hopping online, and so my daughter worked for the airline. And I think it would have had to been 2021 because, can't remember if it was after the Capitol riots. It had to been in December of 2021, but she was telling me that yeah, because that's when they're shutting down airlines and they were yeah, okay. But her and her friend were that person that would accompany minor children or help people get to and from their gate. And, they would have minor children coming from other countries, and my daughter and her friend had taught her how to speak Spanish, and so they would talk to these girls, and they would say they were young, like, they were under 14 years of age, and they'd be like, "We don't know where we're going," so they were coming into Utah, so that would be Salt Lake International Airport, and I'm not gonna say which airlines that she worked for or whatnot, but they would come into the Salt Lake, and then Salt Lake was not their end destination. They were coming into Salt Lake, and then they were to go to another plane. And I actually talked to her more about this because she might have more memory. Maybe it could lead to being able to help some other people, or maybe she has contacts there that could lead to helping people. But they didn't. They're like, we're going to our uncles, but they're like, our uncles or aunts. They don't live in the States, So it was like, I didn't have any clue about this stuff. I just started covering the fall of the cabal. Like I heard like the Pizzagate. I heard like the Epstein. Like I heard stuff, but then I started researching it. I ran across Jenna Osbard who unalived herself, which I think that is BS. And I frantically, with Julian's help, downloaded every single one of her videos, and they are on an external hard drive that is never plugged into my computer. Just FYI, because she went through the whole trafficking thing on a different level, but that was the hardest thing I've covered because she did her research. She gave you documentation. It was sourced. And that's why they wanted her to stop. And that's why she had a whole nother series that she had written, planned out, and it's never going live because her girlfriend's scared now. So we'll never see.
Yeah.
Unless someone.
Can MGTOW I'm not reading that question correctly. Can you like rephrase it?
Suspicious. Let's see. Oh, did he finally go into the Rumble? Trying to see. Scroll up. Scroll up. He was over in, for whatever reason, he must be shadow banned on X because his chats weren't popping up. You changed your profile, Midtown. There you all are. Okay, hold on. Scroll down.
The only thing I
How
would say, by
does
the way,
Aaron know the
is
government? Here, I'll put it back up.
okay.
There we go. How does Aaron know the government figures they handed the information over to aren't part of the chat? How do you know they're not part of it?
The government part?
Yeah. He's like, how
Well,
do
when
you
it
know
comes
that?
to there, no, that's well, so big word government, right? So you have levels: Fed, state, local. Local does a lot of the this work as well within inside this whole unaccompanied child program, right? And we know that in that level of government, yeah, MS-13 has penetrated like some of the fostering agencies. MS-13 has penetrated some of the child care facilities. We know that, so it's like, yeah, definitely they know about it as well. But as far as the government info, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to address that properly. I'm trying to understand it from your perspective. The as far as like the case data exactly, I don't know how to.
I think he's more or less asking, how do you even know that? So you're given this information, whistleblowing. I don't know if he jumped in late. Okay, here, he just reposted the question. There you go. There's another question.
Oh, because most feds just don't care. Most feds are like most people. Again, it's a very comfortable job. 6 figures, again, like awesome benefits. But yeah, most people just don't care. That's like your 65% of the people that work inside the government. They're not bad human beings, but they're feds. It's a very comfortable lifestyle, very chill, very relaxed. Yeah, they're not. If they are, I'm an idiot, but I never saw an indicator or warning that these guys are traffickers. It's not like they're flashing around like crazy expensive stuff. Yeah, that's how I would say that. They're just, most people don't care, and that's the box they fit in. If that answers the question.
Hold on, I'm just messaging Tara real quick on.
Yeah. Again, Tara's so cool.
She's welcome to jump onto this stream if she wants.
You can send her a link. Yeah, she'll jump
I'll
in.
send her a link. Okay.
Pressure.
I need her to get. She must be shadow banned because she must be shadow banned because tell her to.
I can DM you the profiles. Yeah.
You have
also
she's shadow banned because she's not following. She's not showing up over on our stream either, and neither was Drex.
I did want to address the thing that a gentleman said on Rumble. Can I do it? It's not a question, but it was a statement. Can I respond to it?
You can address anything. Go away. Okay. Go nuts.
A gentleman, I'm thinking it's a guy, said his name is Baba Pack. I'm not sure to say that, but said I'm a stand-up guy. I'm not. I promise you, I'm a sinner like anybody else. I got plenty of vices and faults. I'm very angry, so it's like I'm not like I'm not a poster boy by any means, but I'm good at what I do, and that's the whole thing about it, right? I'm a big believer in that, especially in this day and age. I think people should be. I think if you're serving the people, you should be serving the people, not the program, not the system. So I wouldn't even say I'm patriotic by any means. I'm a Christian. Obviously, I do care about my neighbor, the people of this country, blah blah blah. And I think people should be loyal to that, not loyal to their paycheck, not loyal to like, yeah, well, this child trafficking is going on, but I'm making 6 figures, so it's like, yeah, but you're going to give this thing over to our children, and they won't change it because it's so far down the road. So, thank you. It's a very nice compliment. It's just that that's my response.
Okay, I sent Tara a link, but I'm gonna let you talk for a second. I'm gonna go use the restroom, so you're gonna have to. You can manage this by yourself.
Well, go. I'm in the Rumble chat. I'm not commenting because I'm not going to give you my account name. But if you guys want to ask questions in the chat, I totally can. I'll scroll through, by the way, too, to see any past ones.
Yeah, you're fine.
But yeah. All right. So, like I said, guys, I'm not the presentation guy. I've done a lot of intel briefing. I can do that kind of stuff. I can do analytical stuff. But when it comes to like use your jazz hands and make me care, it's just like, it's not me, guys. I cannot. Here we go. So, Mr. or Mrs. Julian Delficki. I can't imagine how terrifying it is for a kid to be trapped in the system not speaking English. Yeah, so that's the crazy part too. Okay, again, nerd talk, right? So the kid's coming over. let's talk about the two populations. So you've got adults coming over, and then you got also kids coming over, right? The adults coming over at first, 2021, when we saw this thing kind of kicking off, you see it, the pattern kind of makes sense. It's like, yeah, well, they're mostly Mexican, they're mostly Northern Triangle, maybe like Panamanian. It's close to the border. It's easiest to walk to, right? These kids coming across, it was mostly Guatemalan and then Honduran and then El Salvadoran, so it's like you can see that as well. Well, over time, the adult population totally changed. It's no longer just Mexicans and like Northern Triangle. You're getting Africans, you're getting South Asians, you're getting South Americans. You're seeing different rates with these different countries. Now you're getting Chinese and you're getting Haitians and then kids stay the same. It's still the same rate of kids of everything else. So a thing that sticks out to me is, okay, well, why is it Guatemalan kids the most? Why does that stand out? This is where it becomes more of a question and a guided conversation, I think. And it's more like, okay, well, what's the pattern there? What's the reasoning? We do know that there are a lot of languages in Guatemala that ain't Spanish, that ain't English. So it's hard for a kid to be able to communicate, saying things like help or I'm scared or who is that or what's going on. They're saying it in a language that doesn't really quite, it's like a native language, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah. So as far as the part where you say, I can't imagine how terrifying it is for a kid to be trapped in the system, not speaking English, yeah, or Spanish, and no one can hear them either. So I completely agree with that one. What else? Miss Michelle, thank you for saying I'm awesome. That was very nice of you. I have a question. Was it difficult to keep your cool? I think I'd have just about punched someone at some point. I mean, no, keeping your cool. It's like, no, I wouldn't go home and just like, go my day. It got really hard at times. Before I reached out to Veritas, I was at the point where it's like, I'm seriously questioning like, what am I doing in my life? Like, this is horrible that I'm doing these things. Now, when it comes to all the stuff I blew the whistle on, no, yeah, the anger's there. I'm not gonna lie to you at all. But I don't know. I've been in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Iraq was combat, and Afghanistan was more just like getting rockets on your base. So I've been in conflict. I don't love it, but I do know how to accept it. I do know how to understand like the parts that you're in it, right? So definitely, it's like, yeah, the anger always is there. It's never gone away. But as far as the punching part, it's like, I mean, I don't know, because I've also done interrogations with detainees, and it's like, yeah, you want to beat the shit out of the guy, but what does that do? Where's the intel value? Where's the win, right? So it's like, yeah, it'd be cool to hurt a guy, but does that win? So there's that part as well. I'm looking through the chat right now, by the way, and kind of asking questions or answering questions.
You're fine. That you can see the comments from our other chat. If instead of going to private chat, if you scroll up to comments, you'll see YouTube chat and you'll see X chat in there as well.
I went full screen. I didn't see anything at all.
Yes, if you go up to comments, you'll see everyone's. I've been keeping track of free chat.
So, see, guys, I'm kind of dumb. I didn't know that.
So sorry. Yeah, so if you're streaming to a platform, Rumble is the only one that doesn't integrate with StreamYard, which I think sucks. So our X chatters and our YouTube chatters have been popping up through here.
Yeah.
And I've just been putting YouTube and X chats under the screen that if they've had questions or comments.
Okay. Well, one more in Rumble, then I'll close the screen off. It says, am I scared DOJ will come after for sharing classified info?
Yeah, but you can leave. Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, nothing I shared was classified. Everything wasn't classified. No, yeah. There's the whole like /LES, law enforcement sensitive or whatever else. It's public knowledge. I don't care. I'm gonna close Rumble now though, because
Rumble chat won't show up though. So
I'll
have two chats open. Yeah, so leave your Rumble chat open, but you'll have X and YouTube comes into the other chat.
That is so cool. I didn't know about that. I've always kept on private chat. I'm always like, hey guys, am I breathing too loud?
Yeah, so I've been, because I can click on a button and I can put people up. So what I've been doing is copying and pasting Rumble chat into the chat, because then I can post it if it's something relevant to what you're saying.
Okay. So. And may God bless you as well. You, Michelle. Did Tara respond, by the way, or no?
I sent her DM, so I don't know. I was going to check real quick. I just messaged her through the chat, regular chat. Let's see what she says.
I'll ask her to on
yeah, it says I sent a link to DM, but I don't know if she saw it. And if she's busy tonight, that's fine too. I'll get her on whenever she's available. I'll make time.
Yeah. No, yeah, she'll do it too. Again, she cares. She really, really does. She is. If you guys ever heard us in Spaces, I will tell her to go to bed, because she's getting
Yes.
stretched thin with all the things that she does. So yeah, she does have obviously a very crowded plate. But yeah, a few times I've been like, Tara, get off. It's like it's 11 p.m. out there. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Because again, she's awesome. So we want to keep her in the fight. But yeah.
You've probably been on a lot of stuff though where they haven't streamed to YouTube. I'm not monetized yet on YouTube. I don't know if they'll kick me off. I don't know. I don't care. I've been focusing mostly on my X and my Rumble growth because it's the places where I can use real words without worrying about I want to use the words as they're supposed to be used is all.
Would you mind going to the private chat in this thing? I'm going to send you her email address. She said, yeah, can you send a link to her email address, which I'm sending right now to you? It
Okay.
is. All right, make sure that's right. There we go. Cool. So you got that one. I saw a comment.
Sweet.
Someone asked me if I saw what was my reaction to Sound of Freedom. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch it. It came out during the Collins campaign, and again, I was like, it's child trafficking, it's awareness, all that stuff. It is huge. Go watch it. I'm not saying don't, but it was like I'm not taking 2.5 hours out of my day to watch a thing that, it's like it was just like, yeah, I can watch this, but it was a very, very tight time frame. I'm like, I didn't do anything for that that 39 days. I took care of my kids. I'd work out, and like throughout all that time, like doing laundry and doing dad stuff, I'd be on shows or setting them up or like getting Tara on one, yada yada. So I didn't watch it, but to my understanding, it's a great movie. So I'm glad people. I know I hate saying become aware of it, but I'm glad people are.
It is kind of aware of it though. That's the reality of it because I don't. This thing is out there, and it's still a myth to a lot of people. I just don't hold on. I'm ADD like you are, so I can't multitask. I'm sending this link to Tara.
I can. It just that was one of those things where it's like I'm not taking the only time I took like a night off on that whole like comments thing was Thanksgiving night. I went on a show with I think it was Space Shot 76 and We'll Make Patriot. And I was just like, they were like, yeah, if you got time Thanksgiving night. I was like, well, yeah, my kids are gonna go see like some other family. So like after like 6 p.m. I'm free, guys. So they're like, yeah, we'll send you a link. We'll just kind of hang out and talk. And so yeah, we did the show that night. It generated like 4,000 comments that night. I was like, whoa, like apparently a lot of people are not doing stuff on Thanksgiving night. That was kind of cool. So that was my one night off that I chilled, and it turned out really good. But yeah, you sent it to Tara, right?
Yep, I just sent the email. I just pushed send.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna
I
mute
also
myself.
sent it to her in a DM. It's in a DM
Okay.
too. So I sent it.
She'll be in. I'm gonna turn like 2 lights on really quick because it's getting dark in here.
You're
So would you
fine.
give me like one moment? Okay, I'm gonna.
You're fine. Let me remove you real quick. We'll remove him, guys. Guys, thank you so much for being here. This is to have people that are actually in the fight, that they're doing the legwork, they're working hard, and they're doing their part. Oh, we've got Tara here. Let's go ahead and bring her up. Hold on. Yay. Give me a wave if you're ready to come on stage. All right, she's ready. Welcome.
Hey.
I get to see your face. Yay.
Yeah, it's really great to see you, Sally. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. I've listened to Tara speak in Spaces, and her story, I can't it moves me to tears, and just the work that she's done. You testified in Congress, right?
Yeah, I did have the privilege to tell the story. Yeah, on Capitol Hill, I did. Hey, Aaron.
I'm tagging your comment right now, Tara. Aaron is awesome.
Yay! Yeah. So I just happened to see that this was going on, so I popped right over. Yeah, I didn't expect to be online, but yeah, it's good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Oh,
and I already updated her. Sorry, I already updated Miss Sally with the update with Senator Grassley. The whole the whole thing. So they're aware.
Yeah,
they're
it's
aware.
awesome. it's fantastic that people really are starting to step up to protect and defend the children. So it's been a long battle. Aaron will tell you. I mean, it's been almost 3 years. So, but we're still fighting for the children. We're gonna make this happen. Yeah.
I just can't believe it. So the people who are watching me right now don't know who you are. So why don't you introduce yourself and you can share whatever you're comfortable sharing because people need to know because this is I've followed people. I've watched the fall of the cabal. I've researched stuff, but hearing it from you is completely different than the stuff I've researched and people just don't know. So
Okay.
And I've already told Tara the people, by the way, I do put you on time limits of time because you have been kind of okay. So
Yeah, he does. He'll be like, all right,
this,
it's 1 o'clock, you're cut off.
yeah,
It's time to go to bed.
yeah, and in the future
It's great
too.
to have a Marine look out for you, you know? Yeah, so I guess I'll begin with Aaron is the hero who crashed the door and took first black because he's the one who ultimately led to me being retaliated against. So to tell the story, in February of 21, at the beginning of the Biden administration, they made a call to all federal employees. This is something that's rarely done, but in the middle of a crisis, and they knew they had a crisis at the southern border, they needed people to come help HHS, which is the Department of Health and Human Services. And specifically, they needed people to help ORR, which is the Office of Refugee Resettlement, with the Unaccompanied Children program. And what that is children who show up to the border with no adult. So these are small children and teens who are showing up at our border with no adult. And so when the moment that I saw that, and I've been a federal employee for more than 20 years, I've served in the Inspector General community for over 18 years, where we combat fraud, waste, and abuse in government programs. And tonight, I'm not speaking on behalf of the government, on behalf of the agency. That's my little disclaimer, just on behalf of myself and what I saw at HHS. I thought, what better thing than to help these children? So my husband is a Spanish speaker and I speak Spanish. I mean, he's from El Salvador. And I thought, what better thing could I do with my time than to help children be reunited with their families? That's what I thought I was going to do. A family reunification program. Children separated at the border, putting them with family members. That is what I raised my hand for and said, here I am, send me, I'll go do that. And I thought I was going to be doing puzzles, playing with kids, tucking them in at night, and helping them just feel comfortable in what must be a very scary journey to be separated from everyone you know. So that's what I thought I was going to be doing. And it only took a few minutes, not a few minutes, essentially what was a few minutes, working in case management, it was a few weeks, when we discovered that something was dreadfully wrong. I mean, the children are in crisis. They can't tell us who the person is who they're going to, like what is the real relationship there. The children were having panic attacks. We had kids on suicide watch. And I just knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. I had no idea that one child had ever been trafficked through the program. So we're sitting there, we're looking at these cases, and there's some other incredible whistleblowers, Deborah White, Myra Moreno. We were all on the Pomona Fairplex, and we discover the very first case of what we called suspicious sponsor. And all we knew is this one guy had been associated with 6 different addresses that had all sponsored like kids over the course of time. And they were simultaneously trying to get 4 kids, 2 from us and 2 from the Fort Bliss emergency intake site. So we knew 4 kids were going to a place where multiple adults at 6 addresses had already been sponsoring children from multiple sites. We're like, what is going on? What is that? What could be happening? That doesn't make sense. And somebody pulled up the 2016 Senate report, and we learned that going all the way back to 2014, that they've been trafficking children through the program for labor, for sex, for worse. And that moment, I can only imagine, is like it must feel like if you're driving a Formula One car and the first time you hit the wall and your whole car explodes everything's fallen apart, and you just hope that that protective gear, right, that's there is going to save you. And I really felt like my molecules were going to fly apart. And if it wasn't the grace of God, I don't think I'd be standing today, because we found that case, which led us to see what the red flags were. So if someone is sponsoring 43 children, that's a red flag. Like, what's going on? If
Yeah.
somebody is sponsoring children at multiple addresses, how is that happening? How is it that we have multiple adults in a single dwelling all sponsoring children? What's going on? And so we began to see what the red flags were and began reporting in June of 2021 trafficking cases. And we began, and it just was one after the other, after the other, after the other. And report, June, July, August, September. And it was in the end of August when we saw Aaron's disclosure. Somebody had sent it to us at the site, and Aaron's disclosure, he showed the paperwork that members of transnational criminal organizations or gangs, cartels, were sponsoring the kids. And as I said, my husband's from El Salvador. If you haven't watched the interview of Tucker and Bukele, you have to watch it, because he talks about MS-13, the rise of the gang and how they do sacrifice children. And I was just stunned that the United States government would take vulnerable children and give them to gang members. And I was, when I thought I couldn't be shocked anymore, seeing Aaron's disclosure helped me to see how evil what we were doing was. And we passed his video around the site, and it took us less than 2 weeks to find the first MS-13 sponsor. And
that MS-13 sponsor was not on my watch list, because they weren't watch listed.
Yeah,
so,
she was not watch listed. So if any of your viewers have seen The Sound of Freedom, they will know that Miss Cartagena was the most successful trafficker in that Colombia operation. Because women take care of the children, they provide in a sick way this motherly role over the kids. So there's always a woman involved in the trafficking. And it just so happened that this MS-13 affiliated sponsor also worked in a hotel. Gee, very interesting. And so this case, when I began reporting on this, that's when the whole tide changed. I went from being, they had promoted me to the deputy director of the federal case management team. If anybody knows the federal government, to be a deputy director over anything is a big deal. I mean, it was a huge honor for me. They promoted me to that position, and I had access to information that other people didn't have, which allowed me to put more things together. And they could not have somebody, especially at the level they had put me at, report that the US government, with your tax dollars, was giving kids to MS-13. So it didn't take them but about 23 days to walk me off the site in front of my peers, threaten me with investigation. They said I was going to be investigated, and took my badge. So it was a pretty intense thing. And if I could go back, I would do it all over again, because except this time I would be video recording everything. So, but I still can't believe that the government is involved in this. I can't believe that they're aware of it, that it's been going on all this time and they didn't tell us. Like, I mean, just imagine if you're starting a bank and you're hiring your tellers. Wouldn't you tell them there's such a thing as counterfeit money? I mean, of course you would. And yet here, the United States government was giving a contractor $100 million a month to process the children. And they were not telling them, the case managers, that there's such a thing as a counterfeit fraud, a counterfeit sponsor. They didn't say. They didn't tell us,
but they knew.
Look out for fraud. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know people are
And-
like stunned
and-
into silence.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm no longer a Fed, so I'll do the trash talking for Tara. Tara didn't get walked off. She didn't get the me treatment when they were like, "Go and tell the work will fire you," at home. She didn't get told like, "Don't come in." They walked her off at 12 p.m. right at noon when it was the busiest time of the day, so that everybody could see the perp walk of a very, very nice woman who was an awesome person. Like, hey, you guys want to do the thing that she was? It was to scare the hell out of everybody there.
Yeah.
I'll do that part because.
Yeah, they
Are you
did walk
still,
me
do
off
you
with
still work for the
security.
government?
With security. Yes, I do still work for the government because my agency who loaned me to HHS was like, okay, so wait a minute, Tara. You're telling me that we, out of the goodness of our heart, we gave you up from our agency to go help them with their crisis. You rise through the ranks, right? You work all these hours, you help with all these things, and you find there's trafficking in the system. Buy MS-13 and report it, and they retaliate against you. No, we're not playing those games. My agency was going to send armed agents to escort me back to DC. Yeah, I turned down the escort because my husband was already en route. But yeah, my agency was concerned for my safety, and they are to this day indignant what HHS did to me. We're part of the oversight community. We fight fraud, waste, and abuse. And what is going on in HHS is absolutely not only a waste of taxpayer dollars, but it's being used for the sexual exploitation, the labor exploitation of children. It's unconscionable that tax dollars are being used for this. It would be unconscionable if no tax dollars were being used for this, but the United States government was still serving as the middleman. The United States government, it needs to be made perfectly clear. We are the delivery system from the border to the trafficker. We're essentially FedEx for the cartels. And it's evil what we're doing to these children. It's absolutely horrific. And if anybody has been following, disavow the New York Times, but Hannah Dreier at the New York Times has chronicled children working overnight shifts in slaughterhouses, children with chemical burns, children who are dead because they're not trained to do the jobs that they're doing. Kids, day one, falling 50 feet off of a roof to their death. But see, that doesn't fit the narrative of this is a humanitarian program. We're family reunification. They're not telling you that kids are dead, sex trafficked, and labor trafficked as a result of the program, which is what's happening. It's unthinkable. And they're funding it to the tune of last year, it was over $6 billion. And this year, it will be over $7 billion to traffic children. It's unacceptable.
And
It's
no
horrific.
one covers it. I only knew about this version of it from going into a space that maybe had 1,000, 2,000 people in it. That's how I learned about it, right? I mean, I've covered this stuff, but not this connection. Like like I knew the NGOs, like, yeah, the NGOs are doing this, the NGOs are bringing it in.
Yeah, they are.
Our government is facilitating. HHS is facilitating, paying, and bringing these people to be slaves, sex traffic, whatever you want to call it.
And
And
that's
it's not
actually
just little girls, it's boys too, guys. So just always remember, it's boys and girls.
And that's actually a segue into a comment on Rumble. Can I read it real quickly?
You can do, yes.
All right, because the person said, my question is our government so inept they have no clue how to navigate the system to get results? What I just heard was Aaron spent a lot of time just trying to get information to the appropriate levels of review. Again, the system is not, first off, it's not structured in a way to collect the information, let alone to then create indicators and warnings to identify the information, nor the skill set and tradecraft to understand like how to perform analysis on the information itself. So the answer is yes. It's not just inept, but it's a policy and personnel problem. And a huge part of the policy is obviously like, yeah, it sucks. It should not exist. The segue we always say is if you want HHS to stop trafficking kids, stop giving kids to HHS. And then the other part of that is the policy, the personnel. You've got a problem with talent and a problem with caring. We have a lot of people that are not very talented that don't care. So it's like it just feeds the beast of the entire thing. So I wanted to respond to that question on Rumble because it was there.
Yeah, and I see Timber Traveler here has said, and no lower age limit. And
Tara,
the
what was
answer to
the,
that is no. There's
yeah,
no low late age limit, because our very good friend and fellow whistleblower Carlos Ariano of MVM, that's Mike Victor Mike, was the transportation company. He was a transportation specialist that would transport infants, and he's transported infants that are 3 months, as young as 3 months old. So how is that child going to stand up and say, I don't know who this person is? But children were telling Carlos en route, I don't know who I'm going to.
yeah, and Tara,
I
this is the
don't want to
part
go.
I didn't explain this, and you can do it obviously a lot better. The part of it's not like you going like, okay, here's a kid, let's go through a directory of sponsors and let's find one. Here we go. And it's not being like, we've got a kid, and then the sponsor comes over here to say, hey, can I get that kid? How does the process actually work? Like,
Okay.
you get the kid, then what?
Okay. Well, what happens is the child, when they present themselves at the border, you may have seen, I would recommend following Lieutenant Chris Oliveris. He's with Texas DPS. He will show pictures of the children. They present themselves at the border with pieces of paper. You may have seen this in the news. Many people may have seen it. They have a U.S. point of contact on that piece of paper. The child is determining where they're going. And the children say, people give me this number en route. Sometimes it's written on their arm. Sometimes it's pinned to their clothes. So if they're too small to talk, they pin the information to the clothes. So when our wonderful Border Patrol agents take these children in, they are writing down that U.S. point of contact and taking them into custody, and then turning the child over to HHS with that U.S. point of contact that we use as the sponsor. So we then call that U.S. point of contact and say, hey, you expecting a child? Fantastic. Take a photocopy of or a picture of your ID and send that to me by WhatsApp. We're going to fill out some paperwork, and then we are going to book transportation for that child to get them to you. So we would turn the children over, me, HHS, sitting on the Pomona Fairplex in Pomona, California. We turn that child over to transportation, who the transportation person then delivers the child to that last leg and meets the sponsor either in a parking lot somewhere if they go by bus. Sometimes it was a Walmart parking lot. Or in most instances, we're putting them on planes and having the sponsor meet us in baggage claim in an airport.
Yeah.
And that's when they hand over the child.
So in brevity, basically, they can Sharpie a baby a phone number, and then the government goes, okay, call that number, and then they do hot potato to the baby until the baby's in the baggage terminal, basically.
Yes.
Someone's in the comments, and can I address it really quickly, because there's
You could address everything. Please do.
I'm gonna ask. The gentleman named or lady, whatever, Anon named Timber Traveler is talking about the foster care thing, and I'm kind of like getting lost in the conversation, so I'm not gonna address specifically, but there is absolutely a tie-in with this unaccompanied kids thing and the foster whole system, basically. So when they have these kids, it's government. They're going to classify them: category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4. Category 1 is allegedly the the father or mother of the child, right? That's category 1. Sorry, the sponsors are classified. Category 2A sponsors are, well, you're not mom and dad, but your family, and you were involved in the child's upbringing, allegedly. Category 2B is same thing, but you weren't involved too much. Category 3 is, yeah, you're a complete stranger. You have no idea. There's no relation at all, no history. You're just getting the kid. Then it's category 4 sponsor. Category 4 is when they go into that long-term care process, and they go into basically these group homes, foster homes, etc. Now, there is a lot more in the trafficking world when it comes to what's going on there. There is absolutely trafficking, and that's not just sex and labor trafficking. So a lot of that too comes from the dollar value of those kids. A lot of states, I think maybe every state, Jack Pendergrass on Twitter, follow him, he knows the stuff. Those kids are worth money, and it comes through Title IV funding. And the more jacked up a kid is, the more money they're worth. So they'll take kids and they're like, well, you're a runaway, so we should get you on like psychotropic medication, on food, appetite, whatever's, and on sleep controls, and on this, and uppers and downers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now that value for that kid goes up. These kids, these border kids as well, are going into that system. So it's like, no matter what, there's no good avenue for this whole thing. And the trafficking exists obviously, and like really, really bad. It's not just like, it's not just labor slaves. It's not just sex slaves. It's a lot of ways to exploit a kid, and they are doing it. So
I followed a case on YouTube where a lady got her child taken away. She lived in Florida originally, and he had some kind of rare disease where he had to get a spinal tap, and the mother didn't know if it was good, but the doctor recommended it. So finally, she ends up doing the spinal tap, and he had to have a couple of times, but they ended up taking him away, and somehow it's a long story, but she ended up she got taken away for medical abuse from following a doctor's orders. The doctor was telling her to do these things. They ended up putting her in prison, and it was not just the regular prison. It was a private owned prison, and she didn't have any money because she was trying to fight to get her kid back. And she still does not have she's out of prison now, but she still does not have access to her kid. Her kid's been taken away. And they're like, yeah, well, he's improved so much. She's like, yeah, because you did the treatment that he was supposed to have that I was trying to get him. So she loved this kid. She did everything to fight for him. She was trying to find help groups, and some Anon group. So, they called it a QAnon or whatever. So it was just chaotic and a bunch of trumped up charges, and we took him away for medical abuse. And she was a good mom, and they turned her kids. They took all of her kids away from her, and they turned her other kids against her. It was a disaster. It's just sad.
There's a lot of like it, and the comments are reflecting it. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of stories about this, and like they're all kind of different. They're all kind of parallel. They're all kind of similar, but they're all kind of unique. And it really shows you the size and scope and the extent of just like all the ways that this system is just completely uncontrolled. And someone said it as well. I'm trying to scroll to find it. Someone said something about, so Republicans know about this, but I think don't care. I mean, kind of, yeah. It's, there are some good steps. I always say it's a political issue because our government's doing it. There are obviously some shady Republicans, but I'm not gonna lie to you. The Chuck Grassley thing was huge, and I'm not here to shill, the politic part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a monarchist. You guys see my Twitter bio, but he did the thing that we didn't know we could even do. There's been 17 CRAs going back to like 95. So it's like, listen, any port in a storm, because the Democrats didn't do that. The Democrats did respond with a letter. Who's the dude from Illinois? Durbin. He was like, Dick Durbin. He was like, yeah, guys, bang up job. Let's make sure we tighten down that kind of crap, right? So yeah, you can have that route, or you can have some shady guys that still approve too much war spending, but this is important and they're doing it. So again, I'm kind of like, man, politics is friend enemy. Right now, your friend. So I'll take it.
Right. Yeah, it is pretty amazing. This is a very creative move on their part because remember, they're in the minority, and so they can't hold hearings. So the fact that they're moving forward with doing some things that's going to be made public in the not too far future, they've been trying to build this coalition, which they have now 45, right? It's very creative to do what they're doing with the CRA. Yeah. I mean, the fact that they're going to bring this to the floor, right? They're gonna file legislation because that's all they can do.
Right.
So it is a creative move.
And
I have to give kudos.
And the key thing there too is also like, okay, do I have a CRA? Oh, I'm fresh out of CRAs. Like I can't do that thing. We can't do that thing.
Right.
This has elevated to the level outside of us. Yeah, sucks that it's in the political realm, the partisan realm. But again, politics is friend enemy. Okay, this is just like, let's go. Yeah.
I'll bring politics into this because I was a Democrat. I tell people this. I voted for Biden. I got educated. I was brainwashed by Mockingbird media, so I became educated. And I'll tell you what. So this became prevalent in 2014. a lot of the policies and a lot of the things that Trump defunded, he defunded WPATH, PATH. There's so many things he defunded. In Obama's 8 years of being in office, within 2 years, President Trump had captured twice as many traffickers as Obama did in 8 years. That was in 2 years. So think about why they do not want this guy in office. This became like mainstream 2021. February 2021, this is when it exploded, right?
Yeah.
We have the war in Ukraine taking place, so there's a huge distraction there with everybody. And so I wasn't a Trump fan until I realized all the things he was doing to cut these guys off at the knees. Closing the border was a huge one. Not allowing people to come in, stay in Mexico. He was doing things to cut off the funding. We didn't see this because we're like, oh, whatever. But because he wasn't going after them in Congress, he was going after their network and trying to cut them off. And that's my perception of it. That's how I see it. I could be wrong.
Can I respond to a Rumble comment that just came in? It says, with all the information out there, how do we get the Fed's head out of their ass to help these kids? Or do you think this is a RICO charge? So just to answer that question, this is a very solvable problem, obviously. Okay, I'm speaking solely again back to this is just the unaccompanied kids thing. This is a very, very solvable thing. The prerequisite to do anything is the information. HHS has a lot of it, and DHS has a lot of it. So the solution does not fit with inside the current system. Okay, there's no real apparatus right now which can completely, efficiently, and thoroughly do the thing that needs to get done, which is get the kids out of the trafficking environment, arrest all the bad guys, and then completely destroy the trafficking infrastructure, the court cases, the NGOs that do this, the contracts that do this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the current system cannot do it. Now, systems that's why they're there. You can make them pretty easily. This would not be a hard fix at all. This would take a team of, again, 20 or so people to basically get the information, package it for law enforcement, nationwide APB, which is very, very simple. This is where the watch thing comes into effect. And then the kids that's recovered quickly. Finding bad guys is simple, guys. That's targeting. That's very easy. The hardest lifting part is going to be destroying the infrastructure that did it in the first place. But it's not that hard. Take power and use it. Again, there are absolute solutions, but to make sure I spell this quick, very, very clearly, I don't care about RICO. I don't care about more feds coming out. This is now people, you can either let this keep happening by getting Biden in, or this has a chance to stop by getting Trump in. It's at that level. Again, politics is friend enemy.
Mm-hmm.
It is though. Like I said, I was a Biden supporter. I was independent, and I didn't watch the news. You asked me if I watched this TV show when I was little. I didn't watch TV. I was raising kids. 2020 happens, and for 3 years, all I did was research. All I did was research what that was, and not from the mainstream media. I was going through back channels trying to understand what this thing really was. And that's when I first started watching TV again. And all I was blasted with was Donald Trump, Orange Man Bad. And so then as soon as I say we invaded, as soon as the Ukraine thing happened, I'm like, no, something's wrong here. This is no. And so then I started finding independent sources and getting educated. And then I started doing YouTube. First started doing garden videos, but then I just progressed through history. And then I somehow am on this path, and I think I'm supposed to be here for some reason, because I don't know how I got here, but I've researched, I've listened, and there's something wrong. There's something really, really wrong right now. And Biden is not the answer. And anyone that goes against any bill that is making our country free and safe needs to be put on a list, and they need to be voted out of office.
I agree.
Every single one of them.
Really quick, sorry. Tara's an East Coaster, so I'm going to ask her to leave in 5 minutes. But
it's only 11:25 and it's Friday night.
It's already 11:25. But now I got to go soon too, anyways. Also, there's a question that I think. Well, no, definitely. And we have a group chat. Obviously, I took a picture of us inside already. Can I ask you a question, Tara, from Rumble that you can answer really, really well?
Yeah, sure.
The question is, how much of this information gets the people in their country of origin? are the parents selling their kids for this to happen? That's a good question, because it's like, well, yeah, the kids start there. So how the hell does this all happen? And this is
Yeah.
where,
Yeah. So there are multiple ways. And so children come. There's a show that's called Trafficked in America, and that was put out on the 2014 trafficking case. It shows exactly how they move the children through a sophisticated network, how they promise the parents that the kids are going to be able to work in the US, pay off debts, right? They're smuggling debt to get here, but the parents have to put up the deeds to their homes. So remember, trafficking is force, fraud, or coercion. So the children are being lured here. The parents are paying by putting up their homes to a trafficker, giving their deed to a trafficker because they believe their child is going to a better life. That's one way. Some of the children are snatched straight off the street. That happens. Some children are just lured here. They're seeing it on Facebook. In Guatemala, the Guatemalan teens were telling us they were doing door knocking campaigns, just like they're canvassing right now for, hey, vote for this candidate, vote for that candidate. They're doing door knocking campaigns. Hey, come to the US. They have radio ads in Huehuetenango, Guatemala, saying, hey, come, we'll take you. All you're going to have to do, we have people for you to work for. All you've got to do is pay the debt once you get back. So there's a lot of ways that children get to the border, but they are many of them are nefarious reasons. In the most recent New York Times article, data from US Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, showed that less than 37 or only about 37% of the kids are going to their parents. Now, I don't even believe it's that high because I saw so much fake documentation. So I don't even believe it's that high. So most of these children are not going to their parents. This isn't a family reunification effort. They literally created a new position. This is part of this rule change that Grassley and the 45 other senators are fighting against. Is they've created what's called a unification specialist, not reunification specialist, but a unification specialist who works with a sponsor to get their information so they can move those kids faster. Now, one thing I do also want to just say is that some people may say, because we just had a small discussion about partisan things in politics, I worked as an intern for U.S. Senator Virginia. I live in Virginia. Senator Charles Robb, Democrat. I also did an internship with Congressman Jim Olin, Democrat. I mobilized to support the Biden-Harris administration. Okay, so I think that's important for people to understand. When I went on this mission, I had no agenda. I'm not talking to you now because I have an agenda. I don't believe that this is a Democrat-Republican issue, except to the point that how people vote matters. So to Aaron's point, they, meaning the people out there on Capitol Hill today, have made this a political issue. There is only one party that's standing up for the children. It's not the current administration, who's brought over more than 500,000 children and lost a third of them.
In 3 years. In 3.5 years.
3 years.
And that's the number
think about how much money. Go ahead.
And that's the number they'll admit to. So when we say they lost a third of them, they lost a third that they'll admit to. So obviously the number's a little bit higher than that. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, if they spent $6 billion to facilitate this, can you imagine that while Trump was in office, because if you think about $6 billion, those kids, and I hate to say this, but they're used more than once, and they're more valuable than drugs because you get until it's done, until their usefulness is gone. Let's put it that way, because I am on YouTube. So think of how much money, whether it be 500 for this or 1,000 for that or 10,000 for this, $5 billion of that by one person, guys. Just think about how much money they were making and how much that hurt them. You want to think they would do anything to get their cash cow back?
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
childcare.
I'm going to answer a couple more questions, but Tara, it's late for you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to
come back on. You're going to do this again.
Yeah, I'm going to say this last thing, and then I will go. Obviously, I really appreciate you, Miss Sally, having us on. It's always great to see my brother Aaron. But I want to leave you with this horrifying reality that I had to finally accept, is that there are people who are not like us, right? They view children as income earning assets. And when you're looking at a trafficking situation, whether that's labor, I won't say the other words because you're right, we're on YouTube. The drug is sold once, and then you have to go back and manufacture more. When you have the reason why trafficking of children and adults leads to so much higher income is you can sell that person over and over and over and over again. Every day, week after week, year after year, until the product is no longer useful. And so one trafficker with 10 girls becomes a millionaire. And it's why it's easier for them. And we need to stand up for them. And I'm so grateful to follow in the footsteps of the Marine who crashed the door, Aaron Stevenson, and was willing to stand up and come forward and reveal what was happening, that gang members were getting the kids. And when he revealed that and we found out about it, I mean, he threw the flag in the air. And so one gets one gets one. If you're out there and you know that something's going on in this chain, right? Either DHS, so if you're a Great Border Patrol, or if you are in HHS, Health and Human Services,
or contractors or NGOs, anywhere in the chain.
Transportation, NGOs, you need to recognize that you're facilitating putting children into the hands of bad actors. It's time for more people to come forward. It's time to be brave. It's time to do something.
And there's a cool thing there. Like, this is not new. So you don't need to go public and lose your job. Go in the DMs. Tara will respond. I will respond. Like, there's ways to keep your job, become a protected whistleblower, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to go like, my name is John Higgins and I want to do, like, no, you're client 1, 2, 3, go to the senator and report your whistleblowing, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Very simple.
Yes, we can hook you up in our great network of people. Your name never needs to be known. You can keep going on with your job, but you can pass on information that can help save kids. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. So I just wanted to, because I remember you saying that in this space, that they've already trailblazed this path. You don't have to be your life destroyed and the stress of it. They will give you an avenue. So DM them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bounce very soon too, but there was a question I wanted to respond to. There was kind of two. So someone said, sort of like local police not sharing with state, who won't share with feds. Yeah, basically, but it's like up and down both ways. Feds have a lot of the data, they won't share it out. So that you're correct there. Another part is, do you think there are people in powerful positions who wish for this continue and or profiting of it? The purpose of a system is what it does. So yeah, the purpose of a system is what it does. And what is this doing? That's why it's there.
Yeah. Sad.
There are evil people in the world, guys. There's people who, and there's some people who probably don't know to this depth because people get busy. Like, and there's chains of command. There's people in the know, not in the know. Unless you stumble across it, you might not know. So I'm not going to blame every single bureaucrat or whatever, because they may just be really clueless. I don't know. I would hope that if they did know, that they would stand up and they would do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Every voice makes a difference.
And yours can be safe. So you don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be the
All
limelight.
right. My guests have been very generous tonight. And I'm going to do this again, guys. And they'll let me know what the topic is. Because if that's the case, we'll just do Rumble and X. It doesn't matter. I have recordings of this. They'll be downloaded as soon as I'm done. So if it gets removed from the internet, guess what? I'll find another place to upload it. It's all good. So I appreciate you guys being here, and it's a pleasure. I've heard your story, and it's a pleasure to see your face because I like to interact and see like your faces, that's why I like doing this. But
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Sally, and thanks for bringing me up. This was kind of cool and totally unexpected, so it was fun. It was fun.
yeah,
I
it was
hope there
really
was
fun.
somebody out there who now maybe sees this a different way and will maybe go watch Trafficked in America. It is free on
Oh, who
YouTube.
put that out?
Trafficked in America.
Who put it out? Do you
Was
know
that-
who
It
did
was
it?
a PBS. Yep, PBS special, Frontline.
Okay, because I could stream that. Well, guys, we're gonna probably do a watch party on whatchamacallit. Why can't I think of the name right now? On what is it? Oh my gosh. You guys know my streaming where we watch videos. What is that called? Oh my gosh,
Don't
hold on
know.
one
I'm not
second.
sure
Don't leave
what.
just yet. Hold on, I got it right here. I got a link for it.
And then Where Did the Children Go? You can see that on Rumble by
Yeah.
America's Future.
And that
Yeah,
was
Where
awesome
Did the Children Go?
because the one with Tara's talking about America's Future, that's Tara, Debbie, Myra, and Carlos. That's a really, really awesome one because yeah, they got a lot of depth there. While you're finding that, by the way, again, someone just asked something. This is kind of more personal, but what was your aha moment of when you knew the Spirit of God had taken over, to do something, blah, blah, blah. I don't know the time and place, but it was, I don't know. I'm stupidly in my head sometimes. I get too analytical. So to answer that properly, I don't know, but sometime between when I came to the realization that atheism is not real, that was like mid 2020-ish until like some point in like that April 2021 there, because by April I was like, okay, there's a problem. What the hell's going on? And it was like, okay, there's gotta be something. So that was my aha moment.
Yeah. And
Okay,
go ahead, Sally.
No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'll finish when you're done.
So I was going to say my aha moment was looking into the faces of the kids and hearing the stories and realizing that they weren't going to their families and that they were being lured. That's when I realized that I was on the wrong side. And I thought, that's it. I don't think I can do this. And then Isaiah 41:10 came to my mind. And I think that I quoted that to myself every single day, multiple times a day, because I said, God, there's no way that me, one person, right, working with all these case managers, meaning me and Deb and another person, there's no way that we can help on these hundreds of cases because we processed over 8,000 children in less than 6 months. I mean, it was move those kids. And I just remember every day saying, okay, because this is what Isaiah 41:10 says, do not be afraid, for I am with you. I am your God. Do not be discouraged. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And I knew God somehow showed me, he's like, look, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to do this. You just walk this out. I'm going to be with you every moment. And that's what happened. And he did, because there's no way that we should be sitting here having this conversation. There's no way that I should still have my job after what happened, but God worked it out. There's no way I should have seen Aaron's disclosure. I never heard of Project Veritas, but it all happened. And here we are. And now we're fighting to save the kids. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and mine's more retrospective. It's brief. It's Revelation 3:16. You're hot or cold. It's one or the other. Don't be in the middle, because it's not a good ending. So yeah.
Okay, this is what I'm going to say. So it was Twitch. So I do watch parties on Twitch, and it's usually to escape politics. So what we'll do is we'll do a watch party on Twitch, but they don't do movies anymore. So we'll give you the link. I'll have a clock. We'll all watch at the same time, and we can discuss it, push pause if we need to. But that's a way we can watch it together and discuss it and learn from it together. So I'll let you guys know when we do that.
Awesome.
All right, you guys go to bed, and I'll end this thing for everybody else.
Well,
Thank you
but
for
seriously
coming,
though, obviously, again, this is an important part. Sally, thank you, because, like, this is not a thing that like I get my door knocked on by Fox News or by CNN. So it's people like you that are seriously very critical. Okay. Obviously to the audience, thank you guys as well, because this is kind of how it spreads. So just talk to your friends and family. Like this is one of those things where it's like it's very organic and it goes slow at first until it doesn't, and then it's very, very fast. So seriously, bottom of my heart, I do appreciate your time very much and helping us out.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you so much.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
definitely appreciate it. Christ is King.
Yes, he is. I'm gonna remove you guys. Good night, guys. Thanks for being here. You guys can continue watching if you want from behind the scenes, guys. Oh my gosh, what a I am blessed to have met. I don't know how I've ran across this group of people that I have, and it's all been by accident. And I just kind of feel like I was take someone who was camera shy, who couldn't speak on a spaces because I speak too fast and I lose my train of thought. It's taken me a year to be comfortable talking to people, and I the people I've connected with and the message they have, they're just great people. I'm not gonna stay on what MGTOW said. Protect these kids. Yes, Drex, we need to protect the kids. And the best way we can protect the kids, guys, is to share this information. We need to share this information with as many people as will listen, right? Whoever will listen to this, it's you guys, like I said, you can share this information. Give me a link so I know where it's at in the universe if you can. If you chop it, cut it, give it to people, let people see it. I would really appreciate it. I don't know. I've I missed part of her saying that the DHS had the connection they did, that they were actually funding it and that she was volunteering and facilitating it, helping them get to these people. That yeah, there's no accidents, Frank. I don't think there are, and there's a lot of things that I've covered that I've just gone with my gut. I've switched topics before because I just felt compelled, and heard it was Monday night while was I in a space? I think I was covering the MK Ultra or the Manic Monday, Where Are the Whistleblowers? And he'd come on, and I just DM'd him and said, "Hey, would you like to come on my show?" I'm a smaller show. I thought he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm kind of busy. I got bigger things." No, right away. He's like, "Sure." He came on right away, and um, and I was surprised to have Tara, and I wanted to have Tara on, and we're gonna do this again, guys. She has a really when she does her story, I'm only gonna do it on Rumble and on X because I want her to be able to tell her story and how there's girls that she's still looking for. There's still some girls that she knows that she's hoping that when Trump gets into office that they can find some of these kids that I don't know how close she was, but the story's compelling. It makes me wanna cry. I'm not gonna spend a whole ton of time talking and sending myself out of here, but I just wanna thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to these guys. They've been through this, they've been through hell, and it takes a lot to give up your career or risk giving up your career. You see something, you're like, "Ah, well, I make great money. Yeah, well, I'm just gonna look the other way," and I'm sure people do that. If you guys want to follow me, I am on X, I'm on YouTube, and I am on Rumble. They are all Talk with Sally. If you want to donate to me, you guys can do so you can um, sub to Rumble. I think it's $5 a month. You can also sub to my locals, which is, let's pull it up real quick so you have a visual. Let's see. So there is my locals.com / that word I can't say, Talk with Sally. You can sub there. I do have a chat going all the time. I've been popping in there, but there's hasn't been anybody being there. And that's probably my fault for not going in and chatting with people. My garden is almost done. So my nighttime shows on Twitch will get back to normal. And so will a lot of other things as well. Um, and also, guys, remember to go to the Give, Send, Go for Julian. If you have extra money, you guys can donate to his kidney campaign. Um, if you can't, just share it with someone who might be able to. And with that said, guys, I want you to remember that there are only two things in this life that you can control, and it is your attitude and it is your effort, right? Those are the only things in life we can control. So have a good attitude, work hard, things get thrown at us. It all depends on how you decide you're going to react to them that matters. And don't be a victim. Don't be poor me. Life sucks, right? Just put one foot in front of the other. And with that said, guys, I'm going to say good night to all of you and thank you for your support and your donations. It really does mean a lot. And good night.